Can I just say something about Andrea?
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We are going to be wrapping up the Robert Devine hearing today with his cross-examination. In the last video we watched direct, and this is his opportunity to paint himself in the best possible light, put his best foot forward when it comes to his disagreements with the IA investigation, the IA findings, what exactly it is that he thinks that they overlooked or handled unfairly, and to offer his own counter explanation for the events that seem to have given rise to these multiple instances of being investigated for various types of misconduct. And despite that opportunity to really shine himself in a glowing kind of light, he really didn't seem to have what it takes to step up to the plate. Because overall, his direct examination was really dominated by his own ego, and particularly his fragility when it comes to being exposed for what he was up to. Doesn't make him look so good behind the scenes. So we heard quite a few explanations about, like, the hacking. We heard more about the hacking, right? All the different accounts that have been hacked for years, like to such an extent that he went straight to the police to try to get them to investigate it, right? Yeah, no, of course not. His response to the suggestion that perhaps he, might have considered going to the police for help with this was absolutely not. And it was absolutely not because the last time he did that, it led to him getting demoted and suspended, which at the same time, he's trying to say, yeah, I take full responsibility for that. That was totally on me. But his resentment for that indignity just was dripping through his account of what happened, all the way down to complaining about being trained by a subordinate that he had hired once he returned to duty. And one of my favorites, a comment when he was referring to going to talk with Brian Holmes in his office. The little aside comment, used to be my office. So, all in all, just not really a direct exam that I expect is going to land particularly well. Did not provide an awful lot in the way of credible explanations that are going to be sufficient to overcome the evidence that the internal investigation uncovered, relied on, considered. Seems to be largely a lot of self-conclusory, just take my word for it types of statements along the lines of, like, I couldn't have been Marty Riggs because I don't call the restaurant by its real name types of explanations. So with a direct that's that painful, I'm not expecting this cross to really go very well in his favor. But we're going to see. We're going to see what he's got, see what he brings, and see what this lawyer has in the way of ammunition to challenge him. So with that, guys, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Let's turn to the cross-examination of Robert Devine.
Morning, Mr. Devine. Morning, sir. So yesterday we heard from Hailey Hogan. Is that fair to say? Yes. And she had testified about an affidavit that she had drafted, correct? Yes. And there appeared to be some confusion as to why she drafted the affidavit. Is that fair to say? Yes. Do you know?
There seemed to be some confusion. Yeah, she was freaking all over the place to such an extent that even the hearing officer got on her ass about it. Okay, you You don't remember. You just wrote the affidavit because it was the truth. But who told you should write an affidavit? And how did this come up? And she just doesn't remember anything. She's got a terrible memory, you see, even though she's here to testify about what happened 10 years ago, if not longer. But then, suddenly manages to remember that she didn't, in fact, have a conversation with the defense attorney at the very least. Absolute train wreck, completely unforced error. What's your explanation for this, Mr. Devine? Do you recall having any conversation with Hailey Hogan? What sort of relationship did you have with Hailey Hogan after she left the Explorer program? Did you just generally contact all of the Explorers? Why did you pick her out? Yeah, that Hailey Hogan just really gave them a big weakness to go in and attack, a crack, and now you just got to be the persistent drops of water continue to drip on that crack. Doesn't have to be forceful, but just might be what opens it wide open.
You know why she did?
I do.
And why?
She got so upset at the news coverage of a program that she felt very strongly about that she went to her aunt, who was a colleague of mine, and asked her aunt to reach out to me and said that she wanted to make a statement.
That's why. Oops. That's why, really. She was so overcome by the news coverage that she solicited it through her aunt, and she just couldn't remember that. She was so affected by it that she didn't remember it at all. Oh man. This was one of those, he wasn't expecting that answer. Be careful when you ask a question you don't know the answer for, because you might actually get a raging lunatic who will tell you something that is so unbelievable you never would have anticipated it. The thing is, though, is that doesn't always hurt your case, right? Is this really bolstering Hailey's credibility, or is this now dragging you down into the depths with her? She was so upset that she didn't even remember it. Wow.
So you never reached out to her?
No, she reached out. Well, her aunt reached out to me for her.
And her aunt's solution was to draft an affidavit on your behalf?
Yes.
You had testified yesterday that you, however, reached out.
I did.
And you provided him with a framework of what his affidavit should discuss?
Just the format of it, but not a framework of what it should discuss. I just gave him a format and told him to put it in his own words.
Okay. And so you never mentioned that he should discuss?
Well, of course I did, because that's why I called him.
Well, you just said you didn't provide him a framework for the content.
I did not provide him a framework for the content. I provided him a framework for how to write an affidavit. I didn't tell him how to write it substantive.
Except to talk about it.
We already talked about it 10 years prior. It was pretty relevant to what was being said about me, sir.
So you reached out 10 years later and he knew what to put in the affidavit?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's hard for him to forget.
So but you never told him to put into the affidavit?
No, when I talked to him, I said, do you remember when you called me 10 years ago about? He said, yes. I said, well, she's making claims right now, and I'd appreciate it if you could make a statement on my behalf about what happened. So
statement on my behalf is kind of directing the substance, isn't it? Look how hostile and defensive he is already. Over this is fairly, innocuous stuff, relatively speaking. I mean, wait till we get to you fucking expect us to believe this hacking story. These people hacked everything you had under the sun and did nothing with it except, do pervy stuff. And just conveniently send screenshots of it to your wife. That's all it was. Yeah, they're of course we're getting the bleeped out, but they're talking about the gym, the incident in the gym, where you know, he once again having the opportunity to paint himself in the best possible light, he somehow manages to reveal how thoroughly unsuitable he was for the role of mentor to any child at all. Just despise them, dripping with contempt, and doing nothing to really promote the best interests of these children, these vulnerable children who have problems. And his reaction to that is to have contempt for it, not to try to help them, not to reach out to their parents, to their teachers, to their counselors, to anybody who might be in a position to help get them on kind of more stable footing personally. Now he basks in the attention he got from them, and then, you know, dismisses them. Oof. So that's what they're talking about now with the whoever he contacted 10 years later who happens to remember that incident. Well, that sounds like it's pretty noteworthy then, if you remember it 10 years later. What would be so remarkable about 10 years down the road, you still remember this conversation with a kid in the office? That sure seems a little hard to believe, doesn't it? Unless there was something that really stood out about it, really got your attention. So you can't like both minimize it. It was nothing. It was just door was open. You know, just a little chit chat with the kid to set her straight, tell her to focus on her schoolwork. And at the same time, it was so unusual, so attention getting, that this completely unrelated guy remembers it 10 years down the road.
That's it.
So you did tell him then to discuss the affidavit.
It was relevant.
Well, you just testified that you didn't.
No, I did not.
Okay.
No, you're wrong.
But you just stated that when you discussed with him the affidavit, you mentioned your call from 10 years prior about, right?
Yes.
And that was prior to him drafting?
Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned that to be part of the subject of it.
What was I supposed to do? Make him guess?
That's what you're testifying to.
No, I needed a witness.
Okay.
For something that factually happened.
And is the same true for Hailey Hogan? Did you discuss with her prior to her drafting the affidavit?
No,
So she only had discussions with her aunt,
so far as I know.
but her affidavit is very relevant to this case, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So her aunt was able to anticipate post litigation and what would be relevant?
No, her aunt was able to take her statement and put it into a more legalese form.
Okay, so this is the trap that I think they're trying to close in on him. Is how on earth would she even know like what mattered in any of this? How on earth would she know what was relevant? Okay, there was press. There was press about what? Was it about after the death of Sandra BIRCHMORE? Was there press about his relationship with her? The communications with her? Like what? How would she even know what the IA investigation is about or why it mattered? Possible trap here. I assume this guy is more familiar with the whole process and how it unfolded than I am. What was reported and what wasn't. But that seems to me that might be a little bit of a sticking point. She wrote a whole affidavit about something, but you never talked to her to tell her like what your IA findings were and stuff. We didn't know that until we got to this hearing. And it was public. I mean, as far as I remember, there had to be like a change in Massachusetts law for us to even be able to access these kinds of records, and that's relatively new. And Hailey wrote her affidavit years ago, according to her testimony. Not sure how she knows what the issues are.
And her
Like
statement
most
was,
attorneys do.
and her statement was about SP.
That was part of it, yes.
And you mentioned that her aunt is a colleague of yours.
That's correct.
How is she a colleague?
I actually had her as a professor in law school.
And Hailey Hogan is one of your neighbors?
Yes.
How long has she been one of your neighbors?
I've lived there since 2001, and she said she lived there her whole life, so I assume the whole time I've lived in the neighborhood.
Once he provided you with a draft of his affidavit, did you ever discuss edits to it?
No.
Yesterday, you testified, though, that you provided him with the template.
A template for format.
So there was no content included in the
No
template.
content.
And as the affidavit stands, that's exactly how I drafted it.
Yes.
No feedback from you.
None.
The only initial conversation you had was to refresh his recollection about the contact with,
The only thing I said to him was tell the truth about what happened. That's it.
about what happened. Now, after, or how did you get Hailey Hogan's affidavit?
Her aunt gave it to me.
And this was out of the blue?
No, it wasn't out of the blue. She called me, told me that her niece wanted to make a statement. Okay. As lawyers, a statement is best put in an affidavit. So that's what she gave me.
So who suggested the affidavit?
I may have suggested to her aunt, if she wants to make a statement, have her write up an affidavit. Just get it.
But I thought that her aunt came up with that idea on her own.
I didn't say that. I said her aunt have to write it.
Right, what though?
The affidavit, you play these word games all you want, counsel. But the fact of the matter is, I'm saying the same thing.
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mr. Devine, answer the question.
Your Honor, I'm sorry.
Oh, now he's going to argue with the judge. Now he's going to get pissy with the judge and try to justify his bad little argumentative attitude here. Well, I'm sorry, judge. Just let me guess, you're a victim and it's his fault. Everything is somebody else's fault. Hand up. Stop. You should know better. You want to sit up here and cloak yourself in the smarmy intelligence. Oh, I'm a lawyer. Of course it's an affidavit. You know that. But then the actual responsibility of behaving like a lawyer, you don't want to assume that. Ooh.
Don't even tell me what you're thinking right now. Just
Okay.
answer the questions.
Now, during cross yesterday, you also discussed an interaction with, is that fair to say?
Correct.
And it was, is it Detective Tracy who had a discussion with you about,
Yes.
Oh, this is the
and
fit
do you mind
girl.
just going through what the content of that discussion was?
All he said was, I think her shorts are a little too short to be sitting in your office and they're long.
And he said that to Ms. personally.
No, he said it to me. I said it to Miss because it annoyed me. And then she got upset.
And you had testified yesterday that Ms. was a former police explorer.
She was.
And do you know approximately what year?
But I'm not entirely sure.
And do you know what year this interaction took place between you and Detective Tracy?
Maybe 2013, 2014.
So all the way back in 2013 to 2014, he is having contact with explorers, former explorers, under circumstances that raise a question in an objective observer. Okay. Somebody, Detective Tracy, we have no reason to think Tracy has any beef at all. It strikes him as improper enough to say something about it all the way back then. This, of course, is before before Devine is demoted, if he's not the deputy police chief now, at this point, he's not far off from becoming it. I think in fact he is. So Detective Tracy is probably a subordinate bringing this up. Just can't help but notice a pattern, can we? These obsessed former explorers, and how does he handle it? Not well, apparently. Not well.
So at that time, she was approximately 23 years old.
I believe so.
So when you met her, she was around 13.
Probably about that.
So you kept in touch with her in some capacity over the years?
Well, I mean, I would bump into her here. And yeah, after she graduated high school, she became a bartender at Not Your Average Joe's in Braintree. My wife and I would go there on a regular basis. She would always say hello. We would always talk. And she told me that she was doing spin instruction. And I said, well, if you ever want to help work the kids out, come on down. And she did.
And you met her initially, though, when she was around age 13?
Probably around there.
Now, Holmes also testified about an interaction he perceived with, was that correct?
He testified to it.
And when you spoke with the IA investigators, you admitted that you had a flirty relationship with Mr.
Yes.
Ooh.
And approximately when was this flirty relationship?
Same time frame, 13, 14-ish.
And this,
She interned for a couple of months during that stretch.
so you had a flirty relationship when she was an intern?
I mean, I didn't have a relationship. There was just banter that went back and forth. It was harmless. Nothing that doesn't happen in the police station every day between other people.
Oh, the culture that you oversaw in the police department while you were deputy chief was sexualized and flirty. That's going to be your defense. Totally normal for the deputy chief to be flirting with an intern. How old was this intern? Probably about the same. Early 20s, maybe, if even that. Totally normal. Listen to this guy. Totally normal. Nothing to see here. God, of course he got demoted. Good Lord.
But it was flirty.
It could have been.
And she was an intern.
Yeah.
And in 2013, 2014, you were deputy chief, correct?
Yes.
And you had a flirty relationship with an
I
intern.
didn't have a relationship.
So you flirted with an intern.
I bantered back and forth with an intern.
But during the IA investigation, you testified that it was flirty, correct?
Yeah, it probably was a little bit, but I mean, it was nothing major.
Oh,
In relation to Miss, what did flirting consist of?
Like I said, harmless banter back and forth.
example.
What makes banter flirty?
I couldn't tell you. It was 10 years ago.
But you testified about it in 2021.
No, I testified that I did testify about specifics.
But you acknowledged that it was flirty.
Yeah.
So what about your interactions were flirty?
I couldn't tell you. It was 12 years ago.
No, it's 12
So-
years. No, it's 12 years. It was 10 years. No, it's 12 years. He obviously remembered enough to be able to characterize it. But he doesn't want to give up the specifics. Why not? It's no big deal. You said it was no big deal. So just give us an example of the kinds of exchanges that you had that were sufficient for you to characterize them as flirty to the IA, but also minimal enough for you to call them no big deal here in this proceeding. Surely you remember that well enough because you remember it well enough to characterize them that way. It's 10 years. No, it's 12 years. Oh, man. Hearing officers here taking notes just like I am. Yeah, noticed that for sure.
You remember enough to call it flirty, but don't remember how it was flirty?
Can I remember specific conversations I had 12 years ago? No, I
So you can't remember specific conversations from 10 years ago?
can't. Not that, no.
Not
No,
those
not
ones.
throwaway conversations that had no meaning. Somewhere around there.
And what age was she when you met her?
I think she was 15.
And what age did you begin to flirt with her?
She was 22.
And that's when she was an intern?
Yes.
Did, I guess at that time, Sergeant Holmes ever have a conversation with you about,
Never.
in regard to former police explorers, is it only
She was at Bridgewater State.
so is that a yes?
She's a college student, sure.
All right. Now, you testified yesterday about an interaction you had with and what was your role in the police explorers at that point?
I was handed a program with no direction and I turned it into a junior police captain.
And that's again around 2001, 2002?
Yes.
When were the Farwells in the police explorers program?
They were in the first class.
Okay, so that's around 2001?
Yeah.
And around that time, Matthew Farwell was a deputy chief of the program, correct?
Well, he had already had rank before I took it on.
What was his rank?
I think he was captain and I may have changed it. I may, because I didn't like the name, so I changed it around.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear who you asked about.
Matthew Farwell.
I'm sorry.
Matthew Farwell. What did you change the rank to?
I believe it was that.
So the same position you had at that time in the department?
No, I was a juvenile officer at the time. We didn't have a deputy chief, didn't exist.
So William Farwell also had a rank in the police explorers, correct?
I believe so.
Was he a lieutenant?
I think so.
And that was again around 2001, 2002?
Yes.
How long were the police explorers programs?
Like I said, each academy was 10 weeks, 2 sessions per week, and each session lasted about 2 hours.
Was this during the summer?
Went spring into summer.
So how many times per week did the explorers meet?
Twice. For that stretch.
So approximately 4 hours a week for 10 weeks?
Yeah.
And how many years at most could somebody be a police explorer?
I mean, that's a tough question to answer because I mean, it'd usually be 4 or 5, but I had one exception. Well, I had a couple of exceptions of kids who had developmental issues and they just didn't want to leave. So, I kind of allowed them to hang around even though they weren't technically in the program. One in particular, a kid named, and I just felt badly telling him he had to go.
And you testified yesterday that you also interacted with Miss during open gym.
Yes.
And in particular, you discussed one conversation after her mother had asked you to speak with her.
Yes.
And this occurred at open gym.
Yes.
Why did her mother ask you to speak with her? So she would have been middle school age?
Yes.
And you, as a result of the conversation with the mother, decided to meet with her during open gym?
That was the only time I really had. I didn't want to pull her out of class and I didn't have an office that year. So
But there was a room at open gym off to the side?
it was a gym teacher's office. And it wasn't off to the side. It was literally directly in front of the sign-in sheet.
And where was the sign-in sheet?
There was a double steel door and the doors opened outward. One door stayed closed. This door was open. There was a desk put next to the door, so you couldn't close it without moving everything, the desk, the equipment, everything. And the equipment cage was next to it. Kids would come in, they would sign in, and then they would sign out equipment if they needed it.
And the office had 3 walls or 4 walls?
It did.
And then one of those was the wall with the double door, correct?
Yes.
And inside that office is where you had the discussion with.
Well, I mean, I let her go into the office. I stood in the door.
And nobody else was there, correct?
That's not correct. There was a high school volunteer signing kids in at the desk right next to me. And I believe Officer Hardy was there as well because he's usually there every day.
But this was in the office or outside the office?
Well, as I said, Counselor, I wasn't in the office. I was standing in the door.
But she was inside the office?
Yes.
So you were inside, or you were at the door and she was inside the office?
Yes.
And she was the only one inside the office?
Yes. Because I didn't want to embarrass her with the conversation.
You didn't want to embarrass her in the conversation, so you stood in the open door right next to the high school kid signing her in and had the conversation? It's like every answer just depends on the immediate necessity of what does he need the answer to be in that moment, and whether they collectively add up to a coherent story isn't part of the consideration at all. Like, that doesn't even make sense. You didn't want to embarrass her, so you stood in the door right next to the high schooler who was signing kids in at the desk right next to you, and also maybe some other officer who was usually there. Like, literally, like, back to back statements that don't seem to me to reconcile very well.
Now, one of the things that you testified about is that she would meet boys her own age so she could develop some sort of relationships.
Yes,
And that's because she was infatuated with you.
that's correct.
And infatuation in your mind has some romantic connotations to it.
I would assume so.
And you also mentioned that she's going to turn 18 one day, right?
Yes,
Why would you say that?
because I wanted her to know that she had more life beyond 12, that she's going to graduate high school, go on and forget all about this school and all about me,
But why is 18 relevant?
because that's when she graduated high school.
But why wouldn't you just say someday you're going to graduate high school and move on with your life? If that's the point you're making, why wouldn't you make the point? Why would you make it all this obscure reference cast in the language of, I don't know, age of consent? You're going to be 18 someday. We all know what that means.
And as part of your preparation for this testimony is one of the things that you reviewed the test or the reports of to the IA investigators.
I got it 2 days ago, or actually I got it yesterday. It's the first time I've ever seen it.
But one of the things that she claimed is that you had mentioned to her, wait until you're 18, correct?
No, and not the way she said it, no.
Well, you had mentioned the age of 18 being significant, correct?
They said, one day you're going to turn 18 and leave this place, and you're going to be just fine.
And that's to a 12-year-old who's romantically infatuated with you.
Yeah.
You also mentioned yesterday that the somewhat of a vulnerable individual, is that fair to say?
Her home life was not great.
And that's because her parents were involved in some type of domestic issues.
Regularly.
Did the police ever respond to those?
Regularly.
But yet you thought it was appropriate to meet with her one-on-one?
I didn't want to embarrass her, counselor.
Counselor, call him counselor now. Like that, you know, like that, you know, carries some weight. His hostility is going to translate over or something like that. The kid is apparently at the very least witnessing domestic, probably violence at home, because why are the police being called out regularly? It's because people are shouting, people are yelling, they're screaming, they're fighting. They're perhaps, you know, perhaps harming each other. So the child is at the very minimum witnessing that. And so you decided, I am going to put her inside this room, surrounded by 3 walls with me blocking the door to not embarrass her with the high school kid next to me. Because that seemed like the sensitive thing to do for me to have this conversation at all. Instead of maybe suggesting, Mom, you really need to get your home life in order for the safety and well-being of this child. That maybe your tolerance for this relationship dynamic is your choice, but when you expose your children to it, it is extraordinarily damaging. And perhaps that's why this child is looking to me for some kind of authority, some kind of safety, maybe as a substitute for what she doesn't have at home.
And it wasn't one-on-one. I was visible to the entire open gym, hundreds of kids and volunteers there.
Did others participate in the discussion?
No.
And you testified that you never touched her during this encounter, correct?
Never.
Did you ever hug police explorers?
Police explorers, when they graduated, would come up and I would offer to shake their hand, and every now and then they'd lean in and we'd do the side hug thing. But that was about it.
That was
And that's graduating from high school or from the explorers?
From the Explorers Academy in front of their parents and family.
Did they graduate every year or was it only the seniors when they graduated?
Every
So a middle schooler at the end of the year when they graduate, or excuse me, a middle schooler would graduate from the program,
yes,
and that's when the parents are present,
yes.
and that's when you may hug them.
Again, you know, it wasn't a regular thing. It was, I would offer a handshake. Sometimes they would throw the arms out. I would throw one arm around the shoulder. That was it. But again, it was in front of all their parents.
No, I gotta tell you, you know, a police officer is an authority figure, right? This is like the school principal. This is a boss guy. He represents the rules, especially in the context of this academy that you've described as paramilitary. You're like the general in all of this. I just have a hard time believing that you maintained this distant, gruff, professional, paramilitary type of bearing towards these middle schoolers, and yet they would feel inclined to reach out to you for physical affection? How many people hug their drill sergeant? I kind of doubt that it's very many. I mean, middle school kids in general, I just, you know, when you're in middle school, it's like the most self-conscious stage of human development. You know, so insecure and so like thinking everybody is looking at him and what are they thinking about him, and just all that warped perspective, very self-critical. I have a hard time believing that this spontaneous outreach for affection that's coming from these middle schoolers isn't because there has been some kind of at least implicit invitation to it in how you have treated them and how you've behaved towards them. They're not just going to out of the blue think this authority figure who's a mentor to me that I look up to, who's like a general in the army, is going to want to hug me. Not seeing it.
There's nothing untoward about it.
And you testified yesterday that you had hundreds of police explorers throughout the year.
Yes.
And you just testified that as far as your interactions goes with Miss, you have difficulty recalling specifics.
No, I mean, I have difficulty recalling every little word I said to her.
But you recall this interaction with Miss from 24 years ago very vividly.
Well, that one stood out pretty good, counselor, yeah.
Why did it stand out really good?
Because then she started going around telling everybody that, she was going to date me when she turned 18, which wasn't the case.
Oh.
I went to my sergeant, I reported that, and that was the last I heard of it, and I didn't deal with her after that.
You reported it to your sergeant. Where's the report? Where's the report? Where's the report? Where's the sergeant and his affidavit? She went around telling people she was going to date you when she turned 18. Where'd she get that idea? What a remarkable coincidence that she came up with that when you mentioned the age 18 in this completely different context and you know, with a totally different implication. In fact, we're crazy for thinking that you might have been referring to something else, even though that is apparently how she understood it, even at the time. Where's the report to the sergeant? Look at him sitting there looking like all smug, like he's got an answer for everything. He's got it all figured out. If you made a report to your sergeant, you're going to have some receipts. So where are they? Remembers this one 24 years ago, crystal clear down to where he was standing and who else was there and how everything was oriented. But can't really describe anything flirty that he said to the intern.
So age 18, the same age that you reminded her that there's more to life out there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you testified during the internal affairs investigation that you also failed to remember the firewalls in an incident about impersonating police officers.
I don't remember that as I sit here right now.
Do you know when that's alleged to have occurred?
I don't.
Was it before they were police officers?
I don't know.
One of the things that you testified about yesterday was that Holmes took your job. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And how did he take your job?
Well, he made sure he told everyone in the department that I could never be allowed to come back. He supported a candidate for the Board of Selectmen who wanted to fire the town manager because the town manager was allowing me to come back. And he basically wanted me out of the way so that he could be in line for that position.
So it wasn't because of your misconduct that you lost the job?
I lost the job.
He's waiting for the objection, but surely there's no objection to this. Because, yeah, this is the problem. This is the problem with his ego getting in the way. He's trying to pitch the 2015 incident as I totally accept responsibility for that and I'm remorseful and it was my bad. Not challenging that one. I'm only challenging the 2021 IA investigation. But super resentful of what happened as a consequence of that IA investigation. As if it's Brian Holmes's fault that he did the things that got him suspended and demoted. That's all Brian Holmes's fault? Took his job? Don't sound very remorseful and accountable, does it? Nope, it sure doesn't.
I'd like the answer yes or no.
Okay. No, I did lose the job because of that, but that didn't grant it to him.
He was staring at the lawyer going, where are you? Object. And the lawyer's like, I ain't got shit. It's a valid question. Until finally the hearing officer's got to tell him, no, you need to answer that question. Because you got demoted because of your misconduct. Remember that was your story? Not that it was Brian Holmes's fault. It was only the second one that was Brian Holmes's fault. Okay. How can I possibly be more on top of your story than you are? Oh.
But it was no longer your job, correct?
No,
So he didn't take it from you.
I didn't say he took it from me. I said he took the job.
So that's your recollection of your testimony from yesterday?
That's what I mean. Okay.
One of the things that you also testified about was your online harassment. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And then you testified that when the Massachusetts State Police investigated, it resulted in a triple demotion, correct?
Yes.
And that's because of the investigation? And because you also abused your position as a deputy chief, correct?
Yes.
Now, one of the things that you testified about yesterday was this app list that you created, correct?
I didn't create it. Apple created
So you subpoenaed Apple?
it. No, but I didn't create the list. I merely printed it out
How did you print it out?
directly off my phone. I can show you right now.
Did you take screenshots?
Yes.
So basically you just scrolled through the list and took screenshots?
Yes.
When you scroll through the list, can't you pass up an app?
Well, that's why I took it the way I did, so that it would be redundant on each photo, so you could show that I didn't do that.
And what do you mean by redundant?
I mean that whatever app I ended on one page, I would make sure I started with that app on the next page so that they ran concurrent. And again, my phone's right there. You want to look at it? I'll bring it up.
So since speaking about your phone, you do realize that in order to delete an app off your list, all you need to do is swipe to the left.
I was not aware of that, no.
All you need to do is swipe left and the app doesn't even show up. I don't have an Apple. I don't know how these things work. But wild if true. All you have to do is sweep left and then it goes away and then you just screenshot what's left. Kind of like, you can just go through and selectively delete the messages on the phone you don't want the police to see before you give it to them to be able to extract it. Delete those incriminating Google searches, all that kind of thing. Oh my God, all you got to do is swipe left and then screenshot it. If that's true, that's true. Well, then that's not helpful for him, is it?
Just one moment. Now, did all of the screenshots that you took in your response to both the IA and the post commission come from your phone?
Yes.
So all you did was take screenshots of what appeared on your phone?
Yes.
And that's for everything that's in this submission?
Yes.
So can we pull up page
Oh boy.
828?
Oh boy. Did he screenshot something from somebody else's phone and present it as his phone? Is that where we're going? It sure sounds like that's where we're going.
So this is the app list that we're talking about, correct?
Yes.
And did you prepare this before the IA investigation was concluded?
I sent one to Chief Holmes in August, and then I updated it for the Post.
So the updated one for the post would be after August?
Yes.
Okay, so it would include from September until January when you submitted your response to the post.
I just updated what I hadn't submitted to the police department and submitted. Yes.
So there was a difference between the two lists?
Just the last couple of pages.
Okay. Let's see here. Can we go to page, just one moment here. 895. So the last app in this list is from August 28, 2022.
Yes.
So is this the list that you prepared for post or for the IA investigation?
Must be the IA investigation.
So, and that's because the IA investigation concluded around August 29, 2022. Is that fair to say? Okay. So can we scroll up to, just one moment here. Can we go to page 750 and scroll down a little bit? Now, that paragraph begins.
I believe so.
So how could there be an app that was downloaded on August 28, 2022 on that list?
Well, then maybe I submitted that one to the Post. I can't tell you for sure. It was a couple of years ago. But I know I kept on supplementing every time something popped up. I wanted to have a current copy.
So That list ending on August 28, 2022 must have been for the post submission.
I assume that must be the case,
Okay, can we go to,
but I'm not sure.
He knows.
you created the submission, correct?
3 years ago.
He knows he's in a trap. He knows he's in a trap, so he's starting to get evasive. I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure which one I made. This is 3 years ago. How could I be expected to authenticate my own exhibits? He knows there's a trap being set. And he's really, really trying to avoid it being sprung.
But the post one was from 2023.
Almost 3 years ago.
All right, can we go to
That's literally 2 years ago.
page 743? Now, do you recognize this to be your response to post?
Yes.
And in the top right, that's January 3rd, 2023, correct?
Yes.
So the list that you may have created for post ends August 28, 2022.
I believe so.
And this is dated January 3rd, 2023, correct?
Yes.
So that must mean then that in between January and August 28th, there were no app downloads.
Not that I'm aware of. If there's not, then I would have supplemented it.
And that's what your phone would show now?
I don't know. You could look at it.
Maybe look at it, Your Honor.
Oh, he's offering it to.
Yeah. Hand it to me.
Called him on it. You called him on it.
Set it down here so we can all see it. Can you scroll back up to August 28,
We
2023?
will look at your phone.
Can you go back there, please? So can we pause it there and can we approach Your Honor?
Yes.
Go ahead and swipe left on him while you're at it. And show him.
And I'll ask Your Honor to note that there's no app dated August 28, 2023.
Well, it's 2022.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, excuse me. So,
It's wrong year.
yeah, okay, never mind. Then we need to go back again.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, can we put it back on?
Yes, absolutely.
So I think this is where your submission was.
Yeah, so there's 8.
Okay. Do you agree?
What?
That there's 8 apps in between those dates, 8 apps listed?
I,
I'm sorry. There's
between what?
The August 28th,
August 28th.
January 20, January.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
is
didn't
that what it
actually
shows?
update.
The parties agree that there appear to be 8 apps in between the August 28th date and January 2023 date.
So he didn't update it
In
regularly.
January 3rd.
Correct.
Keep calling these bluffs.
And you had testified
Wow.
that you updated every time that you had downloaded a new app.
I thought I had. Apparently, I missed.
You missed 8.
And can we go to page 250? So now, Chief Holmes had testified that they had sent you a list of questions while the IA is pending. Is that fair to say?
Yes,
How did they send it to you?
by mail.
And you eventually responded?
Yes,
And it was by mail as well?
yes.
Can we go to page 251? Is it fair to say that this appears to be a photocopy of an envelope?
Yes,
Do you recognize the handwriting on the address?
that's mine.
And can you scroll just a little bit? Is there a postmark date in the upper right corner?
Yes,
What's that date?
August 24th, 2022.
Oh. So August 28th would have been after his submission.
Now, in your submission to both the IA and post, is it fair to say that most of the screenshots that you created were around the time period of 2014, 2015?
Those are most of the ones that I was able to recover
How did you recover them?
because I was taking pictures of everything that was going on. I took pictures of less and less because it was something that I just had to learn to live with.
But all,
But I have stuff from 2018 and 2020.
but you didn't feel that those are relevant to the post investigation?
There was no post investigation going on, so I didn't have them.
As far as the 24.
But there is a post investigation going on now. So if you took a bunch of screenshots from all of this harassment you were experiencing with the hacking back in 2018 to 2021, why didn't you submit them to post now? That's the question. Nobody's saying there was a post proceeding back in 2018 to 2021. This is the post proceeding. If you had them, why didn't you submit them for this? We'll just end up going back to, I just had to learn to live with it. Had to learn to live with it. Couldn't deal with it. The helplessness. No, I can't possibly go to the police because they might find me to have abused my position once again. Which was totally justified, by the way, even though Brian Holmes took my job.
2015, that's because of your interaction.
That's correct.
And you had testified that all of these screenshots came from your phone. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Can we pull up 788? And you had testified previously that this was a screenshot from Instagram.
It's a screenshot. Well, actually, no, it's a picture that my son sent.
How did he get the screenshot?
I assume he took the screenshot. So,
Okay.
but it was sent to. Well, actually, no, strike that. It was sent to him by someone else.
Who?
I have no idea. That's the problem.
But you previously
Oh, who?
testified that all of these screenshots came from your phone.
No, I said screenshots of my Apple history came from my phone. Okay, I did not say this one did.
So now all these other screenshots, did some of them not come from your phone?
There are various places where it came from.
What are those various places?
My laptop, my email, because I don't have my work phone anymore. I mean, there's all kinds of different places where it came from. I tried to keep as much as I could early on, but once it became apparent to me that nothing was going to be done about it, you know, I kept track of stuff less and less. I kept the more serious ones like this where threats were being sent out because I wanted to protect my kid.
So now we're back to nothing was going to be done about it from I absolutely did not want to report it because they were like too effective. got me my misconduct uncovered and cost me my position. Got demoted and suspended. Now we're back to they couldn't help. You didn't try. You didn't try. And we all know why you didn't try. Because it's you doing all this. Trying to gaslight your wife to cover up for your uncontrollable perviness. We all know that's what's going on. They couldn't do anything about it. Imagine. Thinks we're idiots.
But some of these screenshots came from places other than your own devices.
Yes,
Okay. And which ones are those?
I'd have to go through them
How do you know that the ones that came from other people are authentic?
because they came from my son.
But you just said that this came from somebody else who was not your son.
Well, okay, but it was sent to my son in his name,
So
which happened on a regular basis.
Who sent it to him?
I don't know. Spoofed numbers. That's the problem. There were fake phone numbers all over the place. There were fake phone numbers sending this stuff to me, my wife, my son. That's why we had to keep changing our phone numbers. Okay, because as soon as they found out what our phone number was, this started. So we would consistently change our phone numbers just to get away from it.
But this screenshot came from somebody else who was not your son?
Yes, but it was sent to my son.
How do you know that it's authentic
Because my son went and found the account and saw it and talked to me about it. He gave it to me. I believe my kid.
So your son found the account?
My son went and found the account. He had Instagram. I don't.
But I thought this account came from somebody that, or this screenshot came from somebody that wasn't your son.
It did. And then he went on and he did a search of his own name and he found multiple accounts that weren't him. They were cloned accounts with his profile picture and his name, but they weren't him. There were at least 7 that were in my name that weren't me. There were at least 8 in my wife's name that weren't her.
And you testify that this is from Instagram.
I believe it was. I believe Facebook bought Instagram, so that's where I think it came from.
So Facebook and Instagram are connected in some way?
I think so. I'm not a tech genius, but I think so.
And in the top left under, what does that word say?
I don't know. Hang on.
Can you make that bigger?
So you believe that this is a screenshot from Instagram that has the words Facebook and Messenger on it?
I think so. I'm not entirely sure.
And you believe that that's because Instagram and Facebook are generally connected?
I think so.
You had an Instagram account, didn't you?
Years ago, yeah.
Do you still?
No.
When did you have an Instagram account?
Oh God, I had one briefly. Probably, I think I started it maybe in 2012, 2013, but like everything else, I shut it down by 2014. So, and yeah, I didn't use it a lot anyway, so.
And you said you shut it down around 2014, the Instagram account?
Yeah, I think so, right around there.
By that point, do you know if Facebook and Instagram were connected that way?
I don't think so, but I could be wrong. I thought that was within the last 5-6 years type thing, but I'm not entirely sure.
I don't remember when Meta got Instagram.
Just one moment here and there. My apologies. Did you have any other social media?
I had,
Objection, we had a time frame.
Have you ever had any other social media?
yes.
What social media have you had?
I mean, I downloaded anything that was new just so I could have an idea what it was. But I didn't keep it
Oh,
long term. I think I had a Snapchat account, I had an
Oh.
Instagram, I had a Twitter, and I had a Facebook account. You think that was it?
Snapchat really jumps out because nobody uses Snapchat unless you're like under 16 or talking to people that are under 16. Snapchat is very much one of those kids apps, especially like early on. Snapchat, huh? Who'd you connect with on Snapchat? How'd you find them? How did you get people's accounts on Snapchat? Who'd you follow?
But I could be wrong.
And you had testified that you have downloaded the Facebook app onto your phone, correct?
Yes,
And you know that you can send messages through the Facebook app?
you can't without the Messenger app.
So that's true even in 2010?
No, 2010, it was a different animal because the Messenger app didn't exist.
So approximately, to your knowledge, approximately when did this transition to Facebook Messenger occur?
I have no idea.
And your representation is that today you cannot message through the Facebook app?
I don't know, sir. My understanding is that the Facebook app, today, I have no idea, but my understanding is in 2020, 2021, you had to have both.
And how did you know that if you didn't have a Facebook account around that time?
Because I had the Facebook app, but no Messenger app, so I couldn't send messages.
Even around 2020, 2021?
That's my understanding.
I thought you...
No, I didn't have Facebook in 2021, no. But when I had it, then that was the case.
So how do you know in 2020 and 2021 that you were required to have the Messenger app?
Frankly, I don't.
Yeah, he caught himself. He caught himself, didn't he? Oops. Yep. That's right. You did get caught because you already said you deleted your Facebook. You already said you deleted your Facebook. Boy, when exactly? I don't know. It's somewhere in my notes. Yeah, I'm not sure I know exactly where, but that was definitely part of his testimony. Remember, he tried to he had it deactivated because you can't delete without deactivating. And at some point he tried to like redo it, but then instantly all this stuff started back up as soon as he got back on Facebook. Closed it for good. In 2016. He deactivated it in 2014. Then he tried to reactivate it in 2016 and it started being attacked again and his family was getting these harassing messages. So he closed it again for good. So he kind of forgot about when he's supposed to have a Facebook and not have a Facebook. Because he's all talking and like he knows an awful lot about Facebook in 2021. And so now he's got to backpedal. Oh, yeah, you're right. Actually, I don't know. I'm completely pulling that out of my ass, which is not overall helpful to your credibility in any of this.
I just assume because that's how it was. So.
Now, one of your representations in the response to post is that Chief Holmes failed to include information relating to your health at the time of your retirement. Is that correct? Can we go to page 223?
His health.
Can you scroll up just a little bit? Sorry, in the other direction. One more. And now, so this is within Divisions Exhibit 1. And we're on page 221. Is it fair to say that this appears to be Exhibit 17 of the Internal Affairs investigation?
Yes.
Can you scroll down back 2 pages to 223? Do you recognize this letter?
Yes.
And what is this letter?
The letter informing the department of my retirement.
Okay. And can you scroll down approximately? No, excuse me. Sorry.
Didn't appear in his narrative.
But it appears here that it's part of the Internal Affairs investigation.
Was it released to the public?
I'm having a little trouble understanding the answer. Just say it a little slower.
The issue, Your Honor, is
I just want
we
the answer.
were taught. I understand, sir. I'm trying to clarify. We were taught in the police academy that if something's not in your narrative, it didn't happen. Okay, you can have all the exhibits in the world that you want, but if it's not in your narrative, it didn't happen. That was not put in his narrative, and that was not available when they released that report.
So that's the nature of his complaint. Not that Brian Holmes didn't have the information and consider it, but that he didn't put it in his narrative because apparently the IA report is supposed to be exactly the same as a police narrative, which typically does not have attachments or exhibits or anything like that. It might have an associated item of evidence if there's evidence collected and the report is documenting that. But otherwise, the report is just an account of the facts that were observed, elicited, obtained, somehow acquired. The IA report's kind of different because all those facts are in the exhibits, the attachments, the evidence itself. And so he's trying to set up the standard where unless you mention every single fact in the appendices, which is, hundreds of pages, that therefore like your entire report is bad, even though like the report kind of by definition is supposed to be a summary. Findings and conclusions based on the stuff, not the stuff. The stuff is the attachment. So that's his problem. Not that it wasn't considered, but that he didn't write it in his narrative. I kind of have a feeling that's probably fatal to his complaint about the insufficiency of the IA report on this basis, because I highly doubt there's any kind of legal requirement that something not being stated in the narrative, but being fully substantiated in the exhibits and attachments means it wasn't considered. I really, really doubt that.
So no, he did not put it in his report, sir.
You said this wasn't available when they released the report?
Yes,
Can you scroll up just a little bit, please? This, oh, sorry. This letter is dated August 15, 2022, isn't it?
yes.
Can we now go to page 11?
What's the
And
date
can you
of the
scroll
report?
down just a little bit? Right there is good. Up just 2 more lines. This appears to be the first page of the internal affairs investigation, correct?
Yes,
And it's dated August 29, 2022.
yes,
So after August 16th, correct?
yes.
So that letter was available at the time of the report.
Not what they released, no.
What do you mean what they released?
Wasn't in his narrative, counselor. I can't be any more clear about it than that. Wasn't in his narrative.
But released to who?
They released it to the world, sir. Except for me. I couldn't get a copy of it for months. But
Aren't
they called a press conference and they handed out copies of this report without any of that supporting evidence.
So everyone in the world had access except for you?
I asked several times for a copy of the report and it was not good. I had to download one off the internet.
So you did have access?
No, I had to download it from a press company, not from the police department.
So as far as the police explorers
Oh
go,
my God, nobody buys this.
you said that you took over around 2021. Is that fair to say?
No, 2000.
Or sorry, 2001.
Yes.
And you testified yesterday that few seniors were involved in the police explorers because they usually had quit at that point.
Well, they had graduations coming up, stuff like that. Even if they started in the spring, they would usually be gone before the end of the program. So
Do you know if SB made it to her senior year in the explorers program?
I had no idea. I wasn't running it then.
Approximately how many years did you have SB in the program?
2 or 3, maybe.
So these are 2 or 3 10-week programs?
Yes.
And were you there every day during the 10 weeks?
Yes.
Approximately how many explorers were there in each class?
20, 25.
So of those 20 to 25, or excuse me, those 20 to 25 police explorers saw you every day during the 10 weeks.
And unless I had something I had to do, yes.
And SB was in it multiple years.
Yes.
You also testified yesterday that SB, when you were on patrol, came up to you approximately once a week.
Once every other week. Yeah.
I'm minimizing.
Yesterday,
it.
you had testified, though, that it was once or twice.
No, I said once a week, once every other week. That's what I said.
And this was for a period of over a year, correct?
I'm gonna have to look and see if I wrote that down now because yeah, I don't think I wrote down the frequency. Just that she would pull in and want to strike up a conversation. We try to proposition him. I did write down, yes, I did, once a week or once every other week. So he is right on that. He's right on that.
No, it wouldn't have been because I didn't hit the road. I don't think I got put back on the road until it was my last year. It was my last year of law school, and I graduated in 2020. So I didn't hit the road again until the summer of 2020. So it would have been at most 6 months.
So 6 months is approximately 24 weeks.
I would say
So you interacted with her while you were on patrol approximately 20 times, if not a little more.
maybe
How long do those interactions last?
no more than a few minutes.
And how long would those interactions last before she asked you to rail her?
She came up with that one probably 2 or 3 weeks in. So I would say, I hadn't been back on the road that long. I can't say for sure, but it was around there.
Okay, so even after those suggestions, you interacted with her on a weekly basis for multiple months?
It wasn't my choice, sir. I would be sitting somewhere and she would pull up to me window.
He's helpless again. He's helpless. He couldn't do anything to protect himself from this predatory 23-year-old girl. He's the police officer on the job, on patrol, and he was helpless. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't roll up his window. He couldn't say, "Don't talk to me." He couldn't say, "Leave me alone. I want nothing to do with you." Don't you understand? He was helpless. He couldn't do anything about it. He was forced to interact with her. And that's why he's the mentor for the kids in the Explorer program. So that maybe someday they too can be forced by a troubled 23-year-old girl to have interactions that they don't want to have, but are helpless to avoid. It's all coming together.
I would exchange pleasantries with her, and I would leave more often than not. That was the interaction.
And you testified yesterday that initially you didn't know what rail meant, correct?
I said it's a word I don't use.
That's not what he said.
But you knew what it meant.
I knew what she meant.
How did you know that?
It was hard not to know in the context what she was saying.
What was the context?
I told you. I said the statement yesterday. She said, "When are you going to give in and just rail me?"
Was there any other context around it?
No,
So just out of the blue, she would just say, "When are you going to give in and rail me?"
that's what she does. Or what she did.
To you.
No, it's what she did to plenty of people.
So you witnessed when she did this to other people?
No, other people talked about it.
Who are these other people that talked about it?
Just people around the station, would say things that she would say, inappropriate things to people that she would everything else. I mean, no one told me she directly propositioned them, but that she would say things that were out of bounds.
So she said all these things so much, and she did it to everybody, and they all were helpless. They all were helpless. Nobody was able to stop the great victimization of the Stoughton Police Department by little Sandra BIRCHMORE. Wow, I had no idea this is how everything was. I feel like my perspective is so different now. Hearing it from him like this almost makes you feel bad for him, doesn't it?
Did they say things that are what?
Out of bounds.
What are the other things that you talked about with her during these interactions?
That she was in school. She got a job. That's about it. It was small talk.
So nothing intimate,
No, never.
but you acknowledge that she had told you that she was having a sexual relationship with Matthew Farwell?
No, I didn't acknowledge that. What she said to me was, when she was propositioning, Matt and Billy like it. She said that one time.
Like what?
I assume she meant like sleeping with her. That's what she said to me.
So she did have.
So you assume that because she said they like her? You assume she was sleeping with them because she said they like her? That seems like a bit of a stretch. That seems like a bit of a stretch.
Intimate conversations with you.
That was the one thing she ever said about them.
Did she say that stuff about anyone else?
No.
So it was just Matthew and Billy Farwell.
Well, she said Matt and Billy. I assumed it was Matthew. But I also didn't believe her when she said it.
Why not?
Because she lied about everything.
What are some of the things that she lied about?
She lied about being pregnant half a dozen times. She had restraining orders taken out on her. I know one restraining order.
Oh, restraining orders, you say? People were able to protect themselves from Sandra? Avoid the communication, the communication that was unwanted? People had some agency and figured out how to do that. This is a twist to the story I wasn't expecting. Because here you were forced the entire time to have all these conversations along with everybody else in the Stoughton Police Department. You were forced to interact with her and then go talk about it with the boys at the water cooler. how could there possibly be this restraining order kind of thing that's available? I'm sure it wasn't available to you for some reason.
Particular, her boyfriend said, you know, she pretty much lied about everything there was to lie,
How do you know that the restraining order was a lie?
because I read it. Oh, how do I know it was a lie?
Yes.
Why did you read the restraining order, and when did you read the restraining order? Why the interest? Why the interest?
Well, I don't think it was a lie because it was written by someone else. It was written by her ex-boyfriend.
So she lied about what her ex-boyfriend wrote?
I didn't say that.
So how did she lie in relation to this restraining order?
What I said was the narrative in the restraining order said,
So how's that a lie?
because I believed it to be a lie, because she lied about everything.
But that's what her boyfriend wrote.
Yes.
Now, you testified yesterday that in 2015, you had admitted to abusing your position in conduct unbecoming. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
In conduct unbecoming, you testified about was sort of like a catch-all provision for misconduct.
Yes.
Can we go to page 627? And do you recognize this, Mr. Devine?
What's here?
You can look at it in your packet if you want, around 627. Can you scroll down a little bit, please? Go to the next page, please. So we're now on page 628. Is it fair to say that this?
Yes.
Do you now know what this letter is?
No, I don't remember. I'm sorry. What page is it on?
This is on 628.
Yeah.
And what is this? Can you scroll to the next page on 629 and go to the bottom of that page? And can we go back to 628? So one of the things that you testified about and in your response to post is that you took responsibility in 2015 for your actions.
I did.
Objection, not going to speak for itself. Well, you can read what it says.
I have a question to follow up as well.
Sure.
Is that what you did?
Yes.
And now did you direct Barrett to commence an official investigation regarding alleged violations of a harassment prevention order?
I did not. And this was not sustained.
So this was not sustained,
That was not sustained.
but it's included in his recommended
It's
charges.
included, but it was not sustained by the appointing authority. That was an unsustained charge.
Did he falsely file the harassment order?
Yes.
And that's even by agreement, right?
Yes.
So is that fair to say?
Yes.
And you admitted to that, correct?
Yes.
So how did you use your prestige or influence to identify that person?
There was an ongoing investigation by the state police. They got information as to who sent it to my house. I asked if I could see it and they showed it.
So no one at the Stoughton Police Department investigated the sending of flowers?
Well, Sandra Barrett was working with the state police, but it was the state police who was handling the overall investigation.
So you use your prestige or influence to influence the Massachusetts State Police investigation?
I asked to see it. All I did was ask to see a piece of paper.
So he wanted to know who sent the flowers to his house. He got that information from the Massachusetts State Police, apparently used that to get a harassment order, but misconduct related to that wasn't sustained. It's a little hard to piece together with all the missing bits we don't get to hear. But that's kind of what it sounds like. He used his prestige and influence to get the identity of the person who was under criminal investigation, an investigation that he wasn't a part of. That's what it sounds like.
What piece of paper?
That showed who ordered the flowers that were sent to my house. They violated my home council. Okay, I was not in a good headspace over this.
Oh, that
continue to
makes
read.
it all okay.
Is that fair to say?
I did.
Okay, and that's to whom?
I believe her name was Katie Gamble.
And that's the person that sent the flowers?
Yes,
So how did you know that this person sent the flowers?
because I saw the sheet from the state police.
Okay, and you thought it was appropriate to contact this person?
So all I wanted was for it to stop. And that's all I left on that voicemail message was, listen, you've created a hornet's nest here. Please, I just want this to stop.
And so you reached,
Could I have used better judgment? Probably. But the fact of the matter is that's what I did.
so you reached out to this person despite an ongoing official Massachusetts State Police investigation?
I did.
That's not good.
There are laws in place that when someone takes out a restraining order, okay, they cannot then be held as violating that restraining order if they don't report that the other person did it. It's so that people will come forward and file for restraining.
But you were a deputy chief at this point?
I was.
Do you believe that as deputy chief, you had an obligation to report crimes?
I probably should have. Again, wasn't the best judgment on my part.
So as a result of this investigation, you had agreed to a 60-day suspension
I did.
and demotion, correct?
Yes.
So this is because, remember, this was all related to the affair that he was having and continuing to have during the course of this whole investigation and so forth. Apparently even with he took a harassment order out against her, but then still continued to have this affair. Like this is a lot of investment to hide this from your wife. Going to a lot of trouble to keep that under wraps.
And that's from deputy chief to patrol officer?
That's correct.
You termed that yesterday as a triple demotion.
Yes.
What were the 3 tiers that you had going down?
Lieutenant, sergeant, back patrol.
After you had been demoted from deputy chief, that position was vacant for a little bit. Is that fair to say?
I don't believe it was because Daniel McGowan was appointed as the acting deputy chief and he acted in that capacity for quite some time.
And that was before now Chief Holmes took over that position?
And it was before they had an assessment center to decide who was going to take it over permanently.
So there was a little bit of lapse in time between when you stepped down from deputy chief, or when you were demoted from deputy chief, and when Chief Holmes became deputy chief?
Yes.
Any idea how much time?
I don't. Months, but I'm not sure.
And one of the things that you testified about is that after you returned that you had issues with other coworkers. Is that fair to say?
Other supervisors.
And who are those supervisors?
Lieutenant Carmichael, specifically one day, Sergeant Dirty at the time, I had issues with him. Lieutenant Owens, Sergeant Marola. About it, I think.
That's about it. So the deputy chief and a whole bunch of lieutenants, you had problems with all of them. Anybody noticing the common denominator in all these problems? I'm really sure it's all of these other people And of course, the, obsessed women and all that, they're really the problem that just surrounds this guy. Imagine having to live like that every single day. All these people have problems with you. And it just never even occurs to you to look in the mirror and ask why. Why is it that all these people have all these problems with me? I mean, the lack of insight is really amazing, because he just can't internalize this I took responsibility for the 2015 misconduct. Because if you had, you would recognize that you let your department down, and you kind of owe it to them to step up and prove yourself, show that you can be trusted, show that you're going to be a good cop, and appreciate that it takes some time to rebuild trust. But no, he just expected it all handed back to him from day one, because he didn't actually take accountability for what happened in 2015. And that's why they all had such a problem with him. And that seems completely understandable to me.
One of the things that you testified about was an internal affairs investigation involving your 8-year-old daughter at the time.
Yes.
And it's because your daughter was alleged to have put a note in Deputy Chief Holmes's mailbox.
Yes.
And he was Deputy Chief at that time.
I believe so.
So it was your old position.
Yes.
And you testified yesterday that your 8-year-old wrote a note with a quote from Wrath of Khan.
Yes.
So your 8-year-old wrote, "Revenge is a dish best served cold."
Yes.
Of her own volition.
Of her own volition.
And of all people in the police department, she put it in Deputy Chief Holmes's mailbox.
Yes.
Any idea why?
Because she had, of course, heard conversations between me and her mom about how our friendship had dissolved. Like I said, our families used to be close, our kids used to be close, and then all of a sudden we weren't. So she had heard that stuff. So she was trying to protect her daddy.
So at 8 years old, she was able to connect the Wrath of Khan quote and the appropriateness of putting it in Holmes's mailbox.
My daughter's a pretty smart kid.
Now, you testified on direct about the timekeeping system at the Stone Police Department.
Yep.
Is that fair to say? And how inaccurate it is?
It can be.
What do you mean it can be?
Like I said, it's all on human error. You know, if someone doesn't take something out, or if someone doesn't put something in, I found one instance in particular that I actually had my, when I was looking at it last night, because I had never seen these sheets before last night, so I had one night to look at it, where it said that I was working the entire shift on January 12th. I didn't. I went home sick because I had gotten my COVID shot. I have my vaccination card with me today that shows that that's when I got it. I got ill. And then I had to go home. And then on the 13th, it shows that I was out for COVID precautions and I was out for a good week.
So you admit that those documents in there are timesheets?
I admit that they were put in there as timesheets. I mean, I have no way of knowing where they came from. I have no way of knowing if they were manipulated. It's pretty easy to do.
Oh, there's some kind of dispute about the timesheets that, what, has he had some other like explanation for what they are? And they would be very easy to manipulate. Here we are back to all of the people that don't have the IA findings for being dishonest. All the ones who didn't create some big hacking hoax. They're the ones who are fabricating all the communications, timesheets. Somebody fabricated timesheets because they have it in for him so bad, and it never occurred to you to look in the mirror and ask God, why do these people hate me so much that they would falsify my timesheets to get rid of me? Maybe I should step up my efforts to regain the trust of the people in my department. Maybe I should make extra efforts to make amends for the wrongs that I did, the shame that I brought on my employer and the people who share the uniform with me.
But they appear to be timesheets on their face.
They appear to be.
And you compared the accuracy of those timesheets to your own calendar?
I don't have my calendar anymore, but there are days and moments that I remember things happen. I remember getting deathly ill over a COVID shot.
And that was on January 12th,
That was on January 12th.
the day after you admitted to being an intern.
Yes. And on the 13th, you can see that it says COVID precaution.
So the 13th timesheet is accurate.
Says what?
COVID precautions.
So the timesheet on the 13th is accurate,
I would think that one is, yeah.
but the 12th wasn't.
I don't know. Well, no, as a matter of fact, it's not because I went home. I went home sick.
So you went home in the middle of the day?
Well, early in the shift.
And that was due to the symptoms you were exhibiting from the COVID shot?
Yes.
How long did you exhibit those symptoms?
Almost a week.
Out drinking and having a good old time the day before. And then you had a mysterious sickness the next day. Who's ever heard of such a thing? Sure, it was COVID.
Now, one of the things that you testified about on direct is that you were a field training officer still on in January 2021.
I was never told that I wasn't.
So when did you become a field training officer?
He was never told he wasn't a field training officer in January of 2021. When was the last time he field trained somebody? When was the last time?
When I came back, well, I was way back in the day. And then when I came back, I got pretty good at running dispatch. So they would have people train with me on the desk.
And you were considered a field training officer in that position?
I got comp time for it. So yeah.
What do you mean you got comp time for it?
Yeah, field training officers got 2 hours of comp time for every day they train.
So
Training for the desk is like the opposite of field training. I'm reasonably confident that you don't have to be a sworn law enforcement officer to run dispatch. Now, I don't know about in Massachusetts. Definitely in my jurisdiction, dispatch is civilian. Civilians run it. It's not field training. Field training is like when you're first out of the academy and you got your job and you have your shift and you got to respond to calls and you got to do all the things associated with the basic police work. Know how to stop a car, know how to approach the car, know how to document the things in your report, know how to turn on and download your body cam, like all the just ins and outs of here's how to be a cop, but also how to exercise your judgment in these situations, how to know when you should give someone a ticket and when you shouldn't, how to know when, somebody is being suspicious in an interview, what to do about it, how to handle it. The whole point of it is to train an inexperienced police officer by placing him with, somebody who's been in the trenches. So they can hopefully, acquire some of that wisdom a little bit more quickly and not have to make a whole bunch of mistakes along the way to figure out how to do the job. That is not training somebody for a dispatch to know how to answer the phone and how to route the calls. No. Nobody is going to buy that training people in dispatch meant you were an FTO.
around January 2021, you were still a field training officer?
Yeah.
Even though you weren't actively training?
Yeah, I mean, you're told unless you're removed from the list, you're an FTO.
So if you were just on patrol and somebody asked you if you were a field training officer, even during the times you weren't training someone, you would say yes?
Yes,
Now,
Status.
because usually they're asking that to ask you a question about something.
and it's not to see if you're with somebody else in your car,
Oh,
because typically when you're a field training officer, you have somebody else in your car, correct?
yes,
Okay, and that's the person that you're training.
usually.
Now, when you testified about the connections between you and Marty Riggs on direct, I believe that after you listed a couple things, you said, that's it. Is that fair to say?
But I think that's about it.
Always keeping his options open. He's had all this time to think about why he couldn't possibly be Marty Riggs and the differences between them. But he's still going to keep his options open. Not be too definitive in his answer in case he needs to backpedal and change it.
Now, those things that you mentioned were that Marty Riggs claims to be a lawyer.
Yes.
And that he claims to have been working on days that you may also have been working.
Yes.
And that he works at a police department, but no mention of what.
Yes.
And that's it.
That's all I can think of as I said it.
Okay. What about the swearing in date? It seems to be the same, right?
Yes. That could mean I got into law school. That could mean I'm attending law school. That could mean I passed the bar. That nowhere in there says I got sworn in today.
When you got into the law school, would you represent that you were a lawyer?
Me, no, because I was older, but there were plenty of kids in my class that did.
What about
I seriously doubt that. Nobody in law school mistakes yourself for a lawyer by virtue of being in law school. Nobody makes that mistake. You know perfectly well that you're not a lawyer yet, and that is, in fact, why you are in law school. Oh, he's trying so hard to get away from that that swearing in date being the same. We don't know what the exact text, message is, but it sounds like it's something along the lines of I became a lawyer on January 12th, 2021. Something like that. And so he's trying to come up with all of these wiggle around, not very plausible interpretations of what that means, including maybe he went to law school. Yeah, no. Not plausible.
when you were in law school? Did you represent that you were a lawyer?
No.
When did you first call yourself a lawyer?
I don't usually call myself a lawyer. I usually say attorney, but
God. Couldn't have been him.
I don't know when I graduated.
When you graduated. So before you were admitted to the bar, you called yourself an attorney?
Well, it was a pretty big thing for a guy in his mid-40s. So yeah, maybe I overreached, but yeah. So
calling yourself an attorney when you're not would be overreaching?
I guess.
It just so happens to be on the date you were admitted to be an attorney.
It appears so.
And you were busy that entire day. You testified yesterday, right?
With my wife the whole day.
Okay. How long does it take you to send a message on your phone?
Well, when you don't have the messenger app, it's pretty difficult.
How
not
would
what
you
I
know?
Okay, but that's what I'm telling you. I couldn't send that message because I never had the app.
I'm not asking about that message. I said, how long does it send you to send a text message?
Send a text message, it wouldn't take very long.
How long would that take you?
Well, again, I didn't send it, so it wouldn't take me, but I assume it wouldn't take long. If I had the technology.
Seconds.
If I had the technology, sure.
And the technology being what?
The messenger app.
So during the entire day were people monitoring your phone activity?
My wife has access to my phone all the time. She knows my password. She can look at it whenever she wants.
Was that true in 2015 as well?
Yeah,
So how did you communicate with 15?
via text message. My wife and I weren't talking very much. And
But she still had-
in 2015, we weren't even living together. So
But she still had access to your phone?
she didn't have access to my phone then. We weren't in the same building.
Now, you had testified about the Chateau Restaurant on direct. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And what's the name that you call Chateau?
No service.
How do you spell that?
NOCERA''S.
And how recently did that name change occur?
I don't know, but that's all I got to call it.
How long has that restaurant generally been?
40 years,
How long have you lived in Stoughton?
25 years.
Now, how close is the Chateau to Goddard Hospital?
Objection. There, I believe there's the representation that there are several chateaus. I'd like to know which one we're talking about.
How close is the Chateau in Stoughton to Goddard Hospital?
Like 4 or 5 miles.
So 4 to 5 miles.
Yeah,
Is that as the crow flies or on the ground? On the roads.
probably on the road.
How long do you think it would take you to drive there in your cruiser?
Depends. If it was a straight shot, it wouldn't take long.
And how long is that?
A few minutes.
So less than 10?
Probably, yeah.
And what exactly is behind the Chateau Restaurant?
The parking lot.
And what's behind
I'm
the
losing the answers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Parking
and what's behind the parking lot?
lot. Another parking lot.
And what's behind that parking lot?
A golf course.
There's no woods in the area behind the Chateau in Stoughton?
No, the golf course is right behind it.
So once you get to the parking lot, you can see the golf course?
Yeah.
So no woods at all behind the Chateau?
I mean, there were trees there, but it's not woodsy. No.
So if we pulled up Google Maps, what you'd see is a golf course abutting the parking lot?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
As a matter of fact, that golf course has a telephone pole that looks right into it with a camera.
Looks right into what?
The back of the chateau. It covers that whole area because their parking
Okay.
lot is right next.
You said a telephone pole?
There's a telephone pole, there's a camera on it, and it sweeps that area
Why is that relevant?
because you're making the assertion that it's a hidden spot. It's not. There are also cameras on the Chateau Restaurant, so you can see people coming and going.
And how do you know that there's a camera in that area?
Because I'm a police officer in the town, I know where a lot of I know where a lot of the cameras.
Did you ever do investigations about things that happened behind the Chateau?
Yeah.
When?
I can't give you exact dates, but I mean, we would get calls on a fairly regular basis to the golf course parking lot and to the chateau once they were closing, if they were nervous about someone who was in the parking lot or things like that. Yeah.
And so again, why did you mention the surveillance videos?
Because you were making the assertion that it was a hidden spot. It's not.
And that's because there's cameras there?
Yeah.
If you're all the way back in the Chateau parking lot, how much traffic is there typically?
Objection. Did you get a time frame?
Yes.
How about around 7 p.m. at night?
Depends on whether they're open or closed. If they're open, it can be full.
What about if they're closed?
If they're closed, the parking lot's empty.
Do you know when they're closed?
I think they usually close around 9 o'clock.
All right, so let's focus around the time of the internal affairs investigation in 2021.
Okay.
So is it fair to say that you learned about SB's death shortly after they discovered her?
Yes.
Give or take, what's the time frame when you discovered that she had passed?
I think the next day.
Do you know the date when she passed away?
I don't remember.
And how did you find out?
Officer Cheever told me.
Who's Officer Cheevers?
She was a fellow officer on the department.
Do you know how she found out?
I don't.
What did you learn about her death initially?
I was told that she hanged herself.
What was your response?
It saddened me. I mean, I was upset. You don't want to see anybody take their own life.
Approximately how long had you known SB? At the time of her death.
Like 5 years.
And how old was she?
Maybe longer. Maybe longer because she was in the Explorers before that, 7, 8 years maybe.
Do you know how old she was when she passed?
23,
And how old was she when you first met her?
13.
So approximately 10 years.
Yeah, I guess.
And at least a few of those were when she was an explorer.
Yes.
And then, was she in the Explorers when you were no longer with the Explorers in 2015?
Yes.
In between 2015 and 2020, when you went back on patrol, how often did you see SB?
For the first several years, I didn't see her at all because, like I said, I was inside the station.
And what about after that?
As I described, the 6 months I was on the road, every time she saw a cruiser, she would pull in and try to strike up a conversation.
So you never saw her in between those two time periods?
The only time I saw her was what I said to the investigator. I was coming home from school. It was late. I hadn't had anything to eat, so I swung into a bar that was close to my house. I was going to get something to eat. I ordered a beer. She was there with a group of friends. She popped up next to me, started saying hello. I didn't even bother ordering dinner. I finished my drink and I left.
Didn't SB work at the Dunkin' in Stoughton?
I don't know.
So you never saw her there?
Which one? There's like 8.
So you never saw her working at any Dunkin' in Stoughton?
No.
Now, is it fair to say that she was a police explorer after you were no longer in charge of the program?
Yes.
Did you ever see her around the station during that time period?
Not really, no, because I was working the day shift and they usually had at night.
Okay. And by not really, does that mean that you sometimes saw her?
I may have. I can't recall any time I did.
Did you ever remember speaking with her?
No.
And after SB's death, do you know how long it took before you became aware that you were a potential suspect of the internal affairs investigation?
Sir, I didn't know a damn thing. Even once I got called in for my interview, I wasn't told anything. I got put out on administrative leave, and that was the first I knew of anything. I was shocked. I got called in on my day off to hand in my badge and my gun. And my response, and I'm sure Chief McNamara could tell you, was pretty friggin' shocked. I had no idea what was going on.
So when you went on administrative leave, did they give you any information?
No, they just told me it was involving the investigation into her. That's it.
Her being SB.
Yes.
And do you know approximately when that was?
Oh, God. Somewhere between February and April of 2022, I think.
So approximately a year after her death?
I think so. Yeah.
Now, one of the things that you had testified about throughout this hearing is that the members of the Stoughton Police Department, in particular your supervisors, weren't very friendly to you upon your return in 2015.
That's cool.
But you became a field training officer.
No, I was already a field training officer. I just got used with the certification I already had.
But they allowed you to train other officers.
Yeah, because they knew I was good at it. And Lieutenant Bonnie oversaw that. He and I.
Who did you train?
And what about the Oasis program? Didn't you participate in that?
I did.
How long after you returned in 2015?
After some begging by the town drug abuse coordinator, I was reinstated.
Begged.
I don't know, maybe 6 months.
God, this guy's ego. It's unbearable, isn't it? They had to beg him to go back to Oasis, notwithstanding the IA investigation and his demotion and all of the publicity associated with it that was so embarrassing for the department. They still begged him to go back. How many officers did you train after you were demoted? Can you name a couple? God, I wonder if it's too late. It probably is, because this is an admin hearing. If this was a criminal case, name them. And then guess who's getting a subpoena this afternoon?
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, so 6 months after you returned. So you were involved in Oasis for several years after 2015?
No, I was ripped out of the program for a good stretch of time because my co-chair was being investigated for something that ended up being nothing. I got a letter from the chief that made it seem like I did something wrong. So I was pulled out for quite a while.
And one of the things that you testified about was that after your return in 2015, you got in trouble for seemingly every little thing.
Yes.
One of the things was speaking on the phone incorrectly.
Yes.
Another thing I believe you mentioned was abuse of sick leave.
Yes.
And how many internal affairs investigations were open against you for those things?
I have no idea.
How many times?
All I know is I was spoken to and being counseled is part of the disciplinary process.
How many written reprimands were issued?
I don't know.
Are you aware of any?
None that were given to me other than, the official one against my daughter.
And how many times were you suspended?
I wasn't suspended.
Okay, and how many times was it discussed that you should be terminated?
None that I know of.
So it was sort of just
Bitching.
interactions where you would get in trouble from your supervisors.
They were counseling sessions. That's what they were called.
Counseling
Were
session.
those the only two things that you got counseled for? Was answering the phone incorrectly and abuse of sick leave?
No, there were several other things, one of which in particular, as I said, I wasn't allowed to drive a police cruiser. And we had a day where the shift was out of control and one of the bosses was being sent to a call by himself. I tried asking him over the air if he wanted me to jump in a car. I don't think he heard me, but I jumped in a car and I went and I backed him up.
Oh, so you were insubordinate. You were insubordinate. You really wanted to answer that call. And so knowing that you weren't allowed in the car, you went and got in the car anyway. You were insubordinate and all they did was counsel you for it. I think you got quite lucky about that.
Came back and I got read the riot act for it.
What does that mean? Read the riot act.
I got told I'm not allowed to drive police cars. I'm not allowed to do the things that police officers are able to do.
And you knew that you weren't allowed to drive a police car at that time.
I wasn't aware that I wasn't allowed to drive a police car. I was aware that I was supposed to be sitting on the desk.
So in other words, not driving a police car.
I suppose. But that was just one of many instances.
And what are the many others?
I got ordered to be in a social media photo and I was averse to social media because of everything I was going through.
You were on Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You tried out every single app just so that you knew what they were. So that means you were on Whisper. You were on, I don't even remember. I don't even know offhand. Oh, I can find all of like the little local chat apps because, yeah, they come up in criminal cases a lot. Oh man, but you didn't want to be, so you refused to be in their social media photo. You made a big stink about that. Why? Didn't want anybody seeing you, recognizing you? Is that why?
So I refused to do it. And I tried to reason with the sergeant as to why. He told me it was in order. And I told him, well, okay, well, I'm willing to take the hit for that. Because I wasn't going to be in a social media post.
Yep. So you were subordinate again. You were subordinate. He says, I'm ordering you to be in the photo. And you said, no, you're not going to be in a photo. You went to the wall over being in a photo. You were insubordinate.
And, it ended up going to the chief. They ended up letting it go eventually, but it did become an issue and I did get counseled for it.
And who was the chief at that time?
Chief McNamara.
So you said she let it go?
Yep.
And that means without any formal discipline?
Other than the counseling session, which is formal discipline.
Did you ever have any direct conflict with Chief McNamara while at the department?
Yes.
And what was that conflict?
Oh, God, there were several things. I mean, from the time that she was working for me to the time that I was working for her.
Oh.
We had.
Oh, is that the nature of it again? Once again, had to be trained by the guy. Had to be trained by the guy that you hired. Went into Brian Holmes's office that used to be yours. And now McNamara in the position that he had. Mm-hmm. Is that what it's about and why there was conflict? Kind of think there is. This guy tells on himself so badly. So badly. Let's hear it. Let's hear about how you were insubordinate to her too.
Had disagreements of opinion. We had disagreements. She would tell people, she would use me as an example for people who were on her investigation. I told her I didn't appreciate that. There were several run-ins of that nature.
How did she use you as an example? What is that?
Oh, there was one officer who he got reported for having improper conversations with a female. He's married. So, of course, she threw me in his face. I didn't appreciate it. It had nothing to do with it.
Why would you be an example for that officer?
I don't know. but she used it.
You don't know? You don't know why you were used as an example of improper, inappropriate communications while you're married? You don't know? Do you not remember the whole context of the 2015 investigation? The part where you were having the affair and then continuing to maintain that affair even after you had apparently like reported her to police and gotten a harassment order? And it just doesn't even cross your mind how you might be a cautionary tale? Not a very good cop with that kind of limited creative thinking, is he?
You heard her do that?
He told me.
So he told you after she used it as an
Yes.
example. So you testified that there's a lot. What else?
Again, sir, it was nitpicky things. It was things that I never so much as got detention before 2015. Okay. I had a 30-year law enforcement career. Never got accused of anything. I was a rule follower. I'm still a rule follower.
Oh,
That's what
are
I
you?
do. Okay. And when I went back, every little minor thing, how I entered things in the log, whether I assigned the proper report numbers, whether I sent the right number of people on a call, whether I handled the call properly. You know, I mean, I could go on and on and on, but it was all just nitpicking at me constantly about things that.
So you weren't doing the job right and you didn't take correction well, is what it sounds like. How you entered stuff in the logs. Yeah, they're going to have a system and you need to be doing it consistent with the system. Entering the numbers of reports, that's pretty important. Accurately tracking the report is pretty important so that you don't misfile things. They don't get misplaced, overlooked, whatever. Sending the wrong number of people to a call could be really important. You send some guy out on some dangerous call. You weren't doing your job right, and they were correcting you, and you were taking it like a toddler. That's all I hear. Nitpicky stuff? Just the details of how to do the tasks you're assigned. God, on top of the insubordination, this guy was intolerable. Absolutely, they wanted to get rid of him.
I was supposedly doing wrong.
And those are the things that Chief McNamara nitpicked about.
Yes.
How many times did now Chief Holmes counsel you formally?
He didn't talk to me at all for the first several years I was back.
And that includes for counseling.
Yes.
So all of these counseling sessions were with other people than Chief Holmes?
Yes.
Some of them were with Chief McNamara, though?
Yes.
So Holmes, the one that had the big problem with him, is the one who didn't formally discipline him? I'm not sure I'm following this math.
So in relation to your time after the internal affairs investigation involving SB began, did you ever return to work?
No.
And when did you retire?
August 16th, 2022.
And that's approximately 4 to 5 months after you found out about the investigation?
Yes, because I wasn't told for anything. I was left twisting in the wind for 5 months.
And that's why you retired?
I retired for health reasons, but after 5 months of hearing nothing, my wife and I sat down and had a conversation about whether it was worth it to stay in the game, and we both decided it wasn't. And I retired.
And your wife is a Quincy Police Department officer?
She is.
Has she been a Quincy officer around, I guess, since around you started to become a police officer in
We
Stoughton?
went to the academy.
So you joined Stoughton at the same time she joined Quincy?
Yes.
And you had testified about SB having an interaction with your wife, is that fair to say?
Yes.
And that's during that red instruction?
It's not called RAT anymore. It's a self-defense program that Quincy puts on. They don't use the RAT moniker because they don't really stick to the entire curriculum.
And you had testified essentially that your wife should avoid having too much contact with SB. Is that fair to say?
Yes,
And why is that?
because anytime SB got the phone numbers of a female officer in our department, whether it be Officer Cheever,
Now it's suddenly the numbers of a female officer. But isn't it Matt and Billy that liked her? And everybody else talks about all the inappropriate things she does. But now trying to like be real careful about, oh, it was only female officers that she got their numbers. Yeah, no, nobody's buying that either.
whether it be Officer Isabel, whether it be Officer Barrett, she would drive them crazy and they would end up having to block her. And I didn't want my wife having to deal with that.
But SB had never done anything to your wife when you initially told her this?
Other than disrupt her class, which she had already done.
So she never sent any messages to your knowledge?
No, she did. She texted my wife as soon as she got her phone number.
What did she text her?
Just let me know when we can set things up, you know, things like that. She kept on sending that. My wife actually entered her into her phone and talked her.
So she had SB's phone number
She did.
saved in her phone.
She did.
So you never did? Did you ever see her phone number?
No.
Did you have any other way to contact her other than in person? So I think it's fair to say that by the time your wife had interactions with SB, you knew SB was somebody that officers should avoid?
Female officers who she wanted to mentor her, yes.
And what about male officers?
Well, I mean, I suppose anyone who she wanted to get involved, pretty much anyone she wanted to get involved with, she would drive crazy. So yeah.
She should have just been isolated and exiled to Siberia. Everyone should block her and cut her off, shun her from society. I mean, what is the matter with this guy?
And in 2020, did you believe that SB was somebody that you should be avoiding?
I mean, outside of high and by, yeah.
But you had these interactions with her for a few minutes at a time?
Yep.
And what happened?
Again, they were forced on me. I hadn't go seeking her out.
Forced on him.
And how did she force herself upon you?
Because I would be parked in an area, she'd pull in with her car, window to window, and just start talking.
So there's no way you could have driven away?
I could have driven away if I wanted to be rude, yeah.
But you didn't want to be rude to her despite that she had propositioned you to rail her?
No,
And how many encounters did you have where she suggested that you rail her?
just the one.
Not multiple?
No.
So there was only one interaction that you had when she suggested sexual contact between the two of you?
That I can remember. Yeah. That's the one that stands out.
How many interactions did you have with her after that?
I couldn't tell you, counsel.
Do you know approximately what date that was?
You said it was like the second or
I
third
don't think I
time.
was on the road that long, so maybe September, October 2020.
And where did this occur?
That was in the Jubilee Church parking lot,
How visible is that parking lot to the public?
right on Route 27.
I'm sorry, what parking lot did you say?
The Jubilee Church, it overlooks a stoplight. So I would sit there and look at the light. There's a shopping center right next to it. So people would come out and run the light all the time. So I would sit at the end of the driveway.
When you're on patrol, is it expected that you sit somewhere where the public's able to see where your cruiser is?
Usually, but not always.
And where are the places where you typically sat while on patrol?
The Jubilee Church parking lot, the Cedar Hill Golf Course, the heck else. I mean, I'd go home for dinner and things like that. And then there was a Planet Fitness plaza on the other side of my patrol area.
Is the Hill Golf Course the same one that abuts the Chateau Restaurant?
It is.
Did you ever sit in the Goddard Hospital parking lot?
Well, I don't call it the Goddard. It hasn't been that for a long time. It's the Gosnell. But I have sat there before, yes.
And that's after you went back on patrol in 2020?
Yes.
Sounds like a lot of place Marty Riggs mentioned. Didn't we hear about that before? The golf course, the chateau, the hospital. Is the hospital where his grandma was, the dying grandma that meant he couldn't have sent the texts? His grandma was busy dying in the hospital. There's no way he had time to set up a booty call in the woods behind the Chateau Restaurant. That he just, was one of his regular little stakeout spots.
Can we go to just one moment? My apologies. Can we go to, I believe it's page 186 of the additional materials. Excuse me, 187. Just one moment. So this is one of the documents that we looked at yesterday. Is that fair to say?
Yes. Yes.
So under that first, can you read that first sentence? And that's when you decline to have a formal investigation. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
And that's because previously the Massachusetts State Police investigation resulted in your triple demotion.
That's part of it, but it's not the entire thing.
That's what you said yesterday.
And that's because of the state police investigation?
No, that's because people in the court don't know how to keep their mouths shut.
Mouth shut about what?
About people's personal lives. So.
So if a member of the public went to the courthouse, they wouldn't be able to get a protective order or a copy of one?
I haven't been in the game for a little bit. My understanding was that the domestic violence laws were beefed up so that was the case. Yes.
Beefed up so that what was the case?
So that those were protected, restraining orders and harassment prevention orders. I could be wrong, but that was my understanding.
From your understanding, were they beefed up before or after 2015?
I'm not sure. I think it was actually right around there.
Coincidentally, I was just looking at this. Let me see if I can find it real fast. Because came up in a little bit of research that I was doing where there was a case. Maybe had to do with I think it was actually even more. Yeah, so back in 2002, there was a Massachusetts 2000. There was a Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court case called Boston Herald Incorporated versus Sharp. And in that case, what happened was a guy had been charged with murdering his ex-wife. And so the press had gone and requested to unseal, unimpound prior divorce and domestic violence proceedings between them. And because, you know, they wanted to kind of get context and see, like, you know, they knew the wife had like tried to get help from the court, and apparently, you know, that was not successful. And so that was granted. They were unimpounded. And this was over an objection from the defense that, you know, I haven't even gone to trial yet. This is going to be prejudicial. And the court said that withholding access to proceedings in open court is justified only in the most extreme situations, if at all. Held that that they should be unimpounded. And then that has similarly applied to things like child welfare cases in certain circumstances. So yeah, I don't know about beefing up anything around 2015, because at least as far back as 2020, 2000, according to the Supreme Judicial Court, you can go in and get access to those. You can get them unimpounded. So could be interesting maybe to explore what on earth his perception of that was based on. It's going to be, again, one of those things you don't know what the answer is going to be, and he's just going to come up with something random. So if you don't actually know the context of that, maybe it's better not to go down that road. But if you know the context of that, if you know what the rules are about the availability of restraining order proceedings and so forth, court documents, court records, be worth asking.
When something went a lot. I remember the 209A laws being updated then. I think that's when it happened, but I can't say for sure. So.
And you're currently a practicing attorney?
But I don't do criminal law.
Why do you mention that?
Because that's what we're talking about.
What do you practice?
Usually estate planning.
Anything else?
I mean, I've handled the occasional, injury lawsuit, things like that. But for the most part, I stick to estate planning.
And you've been a practicing attorney since January 2021?
Yes.
Estate planning is one of these areas where there's a real kind of bimodal distribution of the lawyers, because you can very, very quickly get yourself into areas where the potential malpractice exposure is massive, because you're getting into tax consequences, you're getting into just all kinds of implications with what you're doing that can cost a lot of money. But you also have the far end of folks who don't necessarily, need extensive detailed planning, because they don't have the resources that are going to trigger, these kinds of tax implications. So you don't necessarily need to know about the generation skipping tax or the estate tax threshold or the gift tax exemption and yada yada. So my guess is that's who he is and what he's doing. Doing like simple estate stuff. I'm not getting a read on this guy as like, the high level estate tax planning. I just noticed that because it is such an area where you can get so far out of your league very quickly. And so if you don't have good humility about what you don't know, yeah, you can make some real big messes. You can cause some real significant, very, very, very costly problems. And just given the arrogance I've already gotten from this guy, yeah, really, really not thinking he's going to be good at spotting that line. Might be prudent to have a little bit of insight about stuff like that. Hopefully he knows his limits.
How many attorneys are at your current firm?
Just,
So you're a solo practitioner?
yes,
What's your firm name?
Divine Law LLC.
Where's your office located?
I have an office down the Cape that I share with another attorney, and I have a mailing address in
Where?
Easton.
When you graduated law school, was it your intention to be a solo practitioner?
I didn't really know what I was going to do. I hadn't decided yet. It depended on whether or not I decided to retire, if I was going to try and find a job, or if I was going to try and become a solo practitioner.
But once you were admitted to the bar, you decided to be a solo practitioner?
I mean, within a couple of months of talking to some other ones, I made that decision, I think, March or April of that year. I think that's when I started.
And some other ones being firms?
Yeah, other solo practicing attorneys, because I didn't know what I was getting into, so I wanted to do some research before I did that.
I have nothing further.
I have a couple of follow read that. Just a couple of follows. Sir, when you get a restraining order, you do it in a public court, is that correct?
Correct.
But it's still a public forum, right?
Yes.
You go in front of the judge and the courtroom is open to anybody who wants to come in.
Yes. Yes.
Now, you had discussed on
So if I'm gathering this is going back to why didn't you get a restraining order or something like that? This is going back to not wanting the Massachusetts State Police to investigate the hacking. And before he said it was because when they absolutely not, because when they did it the first time, it led to him being triple demoted. Now, of course, he's backpedaling on that because he's supposed to be taking responsibility for his own triple demotion. And so he's saying it's because people in court don't know how to keep their mouths shut. So he's saying he didn't want, because courts are public. Because court's public. He didn't ask for this hacking to be investigated. This really doesn't make a lot of sense. It really doesn't. You're a victim of a crime, according to you. What's the problem with it being public? I don't understand what the problem is. If you identify who's the perpetrator, and they've been hacking you over and over and over again and doing all these harassing things, you don't want the vindication of a court recognizing that you've been wronged? Somehow I doubt that with this guy. That would be a flag he would wave from the stratosphere.
examination that SB had approached you at certain times.
Yes.
Now, as a police officer, if someone is approaching your car, and you're on duty, do you drive away?
No, I want to know what they want in
So-
case there's something going on.
So if she approached you in a car, what was your obligation as a police officer when she approached?
Find out if there was an emergency.
Oh, it's his duty now. It's his duty to interact with Sandra, even after she's like, propositioning him and otherwise being so inappropriate and annoying. And there's never, in fact, like 20 some times an emergency. And he can't just drive away because he doesn't want to be rude, was his first explanation. But now it's his duty to talk to her. It's not your duty to talk to her. There's nothing wrong. And if she's got an emergency, she can pick up her cell phone and call 911. I can't believe they're trying to turn this into he has an obligation. No, absolutely not. This is just like the lawyer sat here and thought up for himself what he thought a good explanation would be. And now he's feeding it to him. But if that was the issue, you would have said that before and not, well, I didn't want to be rude, even though you're telling your wife, block this girl. Like, that's not rude.
You couldn't just drive away.
Not usually.
The part of your job, despite how many times you were approached by her, what was your obligation?
To at least find out if there was something going on.
I have no questions.
Nothing further.
Hmm.
Um, I have at least one question. Just Ryan, when you were a deputy chief, did you from time to time have to engage in what you call these counseling sessions with police officers?
I did, sir, yes.
Matter of policy or practice that if you engage in that, you would make some sort of record of that?
Not always.
Well, was there a policy, one way or the other?
There's a policy, well, yes, there is a policy, I believe, and it's been a while since I've read it. But I believe that under counseling sessions, they were also referred to as trunk talks, you know.
Say it again.
Trunk talks.
Stronger.
Yeah, where you take someone to the back of the cruiser and be like, hey, you screwed up. All right. But it is in policy, it's official discipline. Then the next step would be regarding reducing things to writing.
The next step after you had the conversation?
In progressive discipline, if the same incident kept happening.
He wants to really have this both ways. He wants it to be quote unquote formal discipline, but without the formality of being documented or tracked in any way whatsoever. Because there is no record of any of this happening that he's describing. I don't doubt some of it did, because by his own admission, he was insubordinate and not doing his job correctly. So they probably did have a few talks with him about that. But he's exaggerating the significance of that. He's trying to suggest this had some formal impact on his employment. And if you're not writing it down or doing anything at all other than having a chat, no, it doesn't. So he's kind of stuck. He's trying to say there's a policy that's also about trunk talks. I seriously doubt the policy is talking about trunk talks. You're just kind of throwing this in because you're making it up on the fly and you're not sure yet where you need to go. And so you need a little bit of filler. So you thought, ooh, maybe I'll distract this guy with some cop lingo, so he'll forget like what he's asking or what the point is. Because, oh shit, there probably is no policy, but the next progressive step is reducing it to writing. Yeah, I don't think anybody is going to buy that. I don't think anybody's going to buy that it's formal discipline to be told you're fucking up your job.
At the initial counseling session, there was no requirement as a matter of policy to make a record of?
No.
I don't have anything further. Does that cause anyone to have any further questions?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Devine.
Thanks, sir.
Well, let's wrap this process up, shall we?
Does the respondent have any further evidence that he wishes to introduce?
No, Your Honor, respond to us.
Is there any rebuttal evidence of the vision proposed?
The division would propose to admit that exhibit that was submitted yesterday, the Marty Riggs messages that were interspersed with the timesheets.
Your Honor, we object to that. I mean, heard.
Can I see what we're talking about?
I emailed it yesterday.
Can I read your evidence?
Fair enough.
So what he did, I can already tell, he took the text messages where the messages refer to him being on duty, being at work, and he like side-by-sided them with the timesheets showing that, oh, hey, this lined up with the times that that this guy was on duty. Just a nice little demonstrative exhibit to show, make it easy for the hearing officer to look at how well they lined up is going to be my guess.
And I'm sure somebody does, so I'll get it. That would be it.
Yes, sorry.
So essentially, if you continue scrolling for a couple pages, there's the Marty Riggs messages that begin the same 99 pages that are part of the IA report. If you keep going a little. Right here at the beginning of those same messages, and then you'll see there's sick day, and then if you keep scrolling, probably a few more pages before the first one. Right there, there's the attendance roster in Stone Police Department.
All right, and reason for your objection?
Your Honor, I asked you to look at the first page of the messages.
Where the rig stuff starts.
Yes. Yes. Page. First page. Okay.
Is that it?
Could we bring up on the other screen? Page 354 of the original exhibit notebook.
Okay.
Scroll down so we have the same page. Your Honor, if there's ever a question about,
Actually, can you just enlarge those a little bit for these tired eyes?
if there's ever a question about the police department's ability to manipulate documents,
Oh God.
well, Judge, it's nice that counsel's trying to testify as to what these are.
But you're reading it now, just, you're right, in terms of what it means, he is testifying, but is this true for other ones as well, that there's?
So there's dates, yeah, they're all the dates, all the times are different on these. Some of the dates are different.
Well, here we have a different date. Let's just take what we're looking at here. You have.
So some discrepancies, I guess, in the Marty Riggs messages.
Consistent with your complaint here about this process.
Well, my point is that it's unreliable.
Well, that's what I'm asking. So
Yeah.
why, and you don't have to tell me this strategically, but why wouldn't this potentially be evidence that's corroborative of your position?
It is, Judge. And it actually goes far.
You're trying to strike. I mean, you don't want it entered into evidence. That's what's a little confusing to me.
He's pointing out, if you're trying to say these messages are faked or they've been messed with or whatever, then what the post division here is offering by having these discrepancies seems to support that. So kind of weird that you're just knee jerk not wanting it to come in. Why wouldn't you want that to come in? And then go ahead and point out this undermines all of your reliance on the Marty Riggs text, because they've now proffered two different versions of when these texts took place.
Hold on 1 second, Judge. Judge, we have no objections. They're not going to put anyone in the stands who authenticate this information.
And that'll be, it's just the way this is received that, has been of concern to the hearing officer in this case. And it seems to me that virtually everything else that was received recently on June and produced on June 13th has been included in the record here. And to the extent I can argue what they want from it, I can argue it's, we should have concerns with authentication and disparities. You can argue, the commission can argue what they think is probative about it. But you're withdrawing your objection?
Yeah, sure. If I could put the a new document back up and just point out something.
The new one we just had.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of my concerns with this, if you can scroll down.
Well, you had this when you had Holmes on the stand for quite a while. Right?
Yeah, well, we reviewed it last night. Judge.
Okay. You didn't notice it until last.
I didn't notice it before.
Your Honor,
These are the documents, and I agree, I got them, you know, like, I think it was 2 weeks ago. When we sourced, I had them 2 weeks ago, and I got them, and when I opened it, honestly, I thought it was just another, I see the Marty Riggs, that was another version of Marty Riggs all over again. Sorry.
Well, but
you-
yes, well, so I can put this in context. I'm just reading for a moment to myself. We have, until you receive this recent material,
yes.
what page is that?
Really not sure what's happening here.
Remember that. All right, well, given that the objection has been withdrawn, we'll admit that as the next exhibit. I want it as a separate exhibit because we've got a separate discussion about it, so we'll isolate it for the purposes of this hearing.
Sure, and the division wanted to introduce that, so that I believe with the division's exhibit 14, but let me just double check on that. Yes, I believe the new exhibit would be divisions 14, and then for identification purposes, that would be division's exhibit F, as in 3. Yeah.
All right, so anything further from the division?
Just to clarify, we'll be receiving an updated exhibit list.
Yes, you will. It will be sent to both parties.
Is it possible we could get you've been very nice, helping me get these documents. Is it possible we can get a big, you'd sent us, a link to the exhibits before. Is it possible that you could send us a link to the exhibits as they exist now?
Yes, and the parties like them like combined into one file if possible.
That would be fine, so you can reference the page numbers. I think that would make sense.
Okay. It is a pretty voluminous file, so if for some reason we can't, I'll let the parties know and we'll try and, make it as clear as possible, but.
I'll come in, as you know, I'll come in.
In view of what I'm about to ask about submissions, what do you think's the timing about this? Providing that this material?
So we have everything, we just want to organize it, just to be realistic. Yeah, could we get back to the parties later today on when they can expect to receive the,
Just generally, it's a matter of days.
yeah, we should know later than tomorrow. I
Oh,
suppose.
I'm just thinking for scheduling purposes.
Yes.
Because we decided in our discussion yesterday that post-hearing submissions would, rather than oral argument, would be a written submission. How much time does the division feel it needs to prepare that? There's a lot of material here, obviously.
I think once we receive that final exhibit list, 4 weeks,
4 weeks,
4 weeks.
is that enough time?
Judge, I'm going on vacation actually tomorrow. My wife's already up in New Hampshire. I asked for another week so I don't have to rush. And I know my client is going away as well.
So you folks are looking, you're okay with 5 weeks as opposed to 4 weeks, I assume.
Yes, that's right.
So what would that be?
Right, so if we send the exhibit list by end of day tomorrow, we'll say that we'll start the count on Friday, July 18th. So 5 weeks from that.
Where's the end of August?
Would be Friday, August 22nd.
So I should tell you what would be most helpful to me. Practical matter, free to make. Or an organized proposed findings of fact, it seems to me, would be most useful, because ultimately I need to make findings of fact. So while I have a sense of the arguments I'll be receiving from you, what facts you think support those arguments, and initially, as part of your submission, findings of facts would be appropriate. Does anybody have a problem with that? Proposed findings.
Your Honor, I've also had instances where it's been requested we send our findings and facts in Word format. So it's easy for Your Honor or another fact finder.
Sure, as opposed to what?
You send a PDF, which is the original, but you also send send it in a Word document so that it's easily used.
Wasn't talking about a PDF. If I said something about a PDF, I don't know.
Oh, no, maybe I was presumptive that we'd be submitting our.
Oh, I think, yeah.
claims.
I mean, so I can use the copy parts that I might want to use?
Yes.
Well, I won't need any of yours. Word. I don't know.
Oh, they think that's real funny. They think that's real funny, but I think he might have literally just said what's on his mind. I won't need any of your proposed findings, Mr. Stowe. Your version of the facts is not going to be the version of the facts I accept. That's kind of what I'm anticipating. It sounds like the way he's describing it, I don't know much procedurally about this process. If this is like entirely de novo, meaning he just looks at the same stuff that the IA investigator looked at and makes his own independent decision based on it, or if there is some kind of standard of review of the IA decision, which usually has some deference to the person who made the initial findings about things like, who do I believe? Who do I not believe? What do I think is a credible explanation? What do I think is not a credible explanation? And it does, I think, maybe change the dynamic a little bit depending on whether this is, completely independent, or whether he has to give some credit to Holmes for the way that he weighed things, given his familiarity with the department, the policies, the big picture as a whole, the personalities involved, all that type of thing. But the way he's describing it definitely makes it sound like it's de novo, which is like really probably even worse for the defense that he would just say that. Not going to need any of yours. Well, we'll find out, won't we?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
We'll submit it both as a PDF and a Word document.
Why not? Yes.
I know we said it was Friday, but I was hoping perhaps we could go to that next Monday, which would.
So you really want more than 5?
Yeah, well, I see if we're gonna get it.
What's the following Monday?
That would be Monday, August 25th.
That's fine.
And that would, what time would that be? Close of business, like 5
Yes.
p.m.?
Yes. Anything else?
I don't believe so.
I don't believe so.
Oh, yes, it shouldn't need to be said, but I will not be accepting any further documents, exhibits. Something comes up, you have to make a separate motion for request, but I don't anticipate that to be favorably received. The only reason it conceivably could be is that we already had the experience in this case of finding files that were not originally available, so I want to keep an open mind about that, but otherwise I don't expect to see anything further by way of proposed evidence. Evidence is closed. Okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, well, thank you both.
Your Honor, just one question about the protective order as it applies to Chief Holmes in particular. He had questions for me yesterday that I was unable to answer. Essentially, because he's the IA investigator, he wants to know if he's totally prohibited from speaking to anybody about his investigation period, or if it's only about what occurred in the hearing room. Because he had knowledge prior to testifying in this matter.
Of course. In what capacity is he concerned? Is he being called as part of additional investigations or something?
So essentially, I believe that people have asked him about, for example, Matthew Farwell or William Farwell or SB, and he basically has to say, I can't speak to anybody about anything, even if it's a personal.
You would think he would enjoy being. So, I mean, if I were in his shoes, I might, but why should he be relieved of, unless it's in the capacity of some investigating authority like the federal or unless somebody in the civil case is trying to question him about it. I wouldn't want him having casual conversations with people. I don't think. What's your view on
The civil case was stayed, so that's not an issue anymore. It was stayed pending the outcome of the federal.
Well, I get that, but it doesn't mean that people aren't doing preparatory work. It may be stated in terms of things going on, or maybe investigations going on. The civil case, maybe certainly federal related investigations, or who knows what else is out there. What do you propose? You're the folks that persuaded me to enter a protective order in the first place. So how do you feel?
My advice to him was just don't talk about it. That was my advice yesterday, but I mentioned that I would speak to the hearing officer. In the grand scheme of things, I mean, he does have personal knowledge outside of this hearing.
Well, I'm not sure I can bar him from information that wasn't obtained by virtue of his participation in this proceeding.
I think generally that would be the division's perspective as well as.
He's going to be walking a tricky line there because sometimes it's hard to distinguish what you learn from this as opposed to what the knowledge you had prior to that. But in connection with some of these other proceedings, there's protective orders anyway. It's a federal one, there's a civil case one, so he's got to be cognizant of that and concerned about violating those orders as well. I think our protective order relates to these proceedings. So that's the simple answer. But if somebody's advising them, they might want to think about the existence of other orders out there as well. I think you gave him good practical advice, by the way. So,
but I also did not want to advise him, as an attorney either, because he's certainly not my client in any form.
Right.
But
do you have any thoughts on that you want to add to this discussion?
No, it's an interesting issue. I think as you said.
Well, are you involved in the civil case?
I am. The civil case I represent.
I figured.
So that has been stayed pending the outcome of the federal criminal case with Matthew Farwell. I think that it would be a personal knowledge before you can't borrow his personal knowledge, but I think he'd be happy to be able to say, so he's not bothered, that he can't say anything. I've been contacted by newspapers and media agencies, and I'm very happy to say I can't talk to him about it. There's orders in place that I can't talk to you about.
So I need to tell you as a general, I don't mind this being a matter of record either. In my current capacity and my capacity sitting on the bench, I generally I'm uncomfortable with these proceedings being subject to a protective order. I did it because there were requests made. I think there's a transparency and a need for public awareness of these matters such as this. This is not this case, it's distinguished from others, but generally speaking. And the other aspect of this that makes it perhaps a little more troublesome is that there's so much out there already. I mean, I've seen articles, I've seen detailed articles. There's a certain irony with using initials here when the world has seen her name published out there. And I don't think it's particularly healthy that, post-commission proceedings should ever be, unless unusual circumstances exist, should ever be confidential and protected. And it's interesting that it seems like the family doesn't seem to be pursuing requests just from a little bit I've read about the outside, and actually we received requests as well, I think, from counsel for the family about being able to participate, at least as observers in these proceedings. So it's not the family that's seeking the protection. So it causes me to think about who is and who stands to be damaged by by what the proceedings that have happened in this case, if they were if the information were released. So I'm going to be thinking about that a bit. I won't do anything without engaging the counsel and the parties, and I wouldn't change the orders unless I had further conversations with you folks. But it's something to think about what's everybody's got to think about their own interests, and that's part of what I'll want to hear from you ultimately. And right now the orders continue to be in existence, but ultimately there's going to be a decision. It's going to be out there. I think the parties are entitled, unless there are reasons to continue to remain confidential in a sort of sense, that it may be in the interest of the parties themselves, it may be in the interest of the public, that the ultimate findings are made public. But again, I won't do anything unless I've had a further conversation with you folks. All right.
That does sort of remind me of a point.
I knew I should get one.
As far as the written closing arguments go, I anticipate that the parties may want the recordings of this proceeding, just in anticipation of not wanting that to occur, 3 days before the written closings are due. Can the parties get access to the recordings?
Yes, yes, it will take additional time just because they are so large, but we can send the recordings. Is the audio recordings fine? Because I think if we did send video, that would be quite big.
The audio will be fine.
Video for this purpose.
No, the audio will be fine.
Okay.
And I'm going away next week anyway, so it doesn't really affect.
I believe the only issue that I think that we were fairly careful about it, but the only issue would be what's being shown to the witness with the audio.
But you know that because everybody said page so-and-so,
Yes.
page so.
I think we were very careful, but that would be my only concern.
So if you need a particular video, you should contact us and we'll work on it, right? But generally, is there a problem with that? I knew I should have said. Yeah.
Just Intern Martinez, I believe we didn't share our screen in the recording, just it was with the people in this room.
Okay.
So if there are specific questions, we can cross-check the page numbers with.
Yeah, then no, I don't think we'll need the video. So that solves the problem.
And obviously, the extent you're receiving the audio recordings, those are subject to the protective order as well. Anything else?
No.
All right, we'll be in recess. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's it. Thank you so much to the trial channel. Leave this up here for a moment so we can give them the kudos for the sound clarification and breaking it up nicely, getting it all organized for us. Really do appreciate that. You are the real MVP, making it so much easier for us to be able to get through that. Well, so interesting little conclusion there at the end. It kind of tells us why we in fact saw this at all when we haven't seen the decision yet. I did a little bit of looking in to try to figure out what the status is. I mentioned this before, and what I was able to find is that the hearing officer has made his recommendation, but his part of the process is basically not binding. He just sends a recommendation up to like a board in the post commission, and they ultimately decide if they're going to accept it or not. So it's kind of more in the way of like a recommendation. And so my understanding is that part has been done. It has been handed up, but we have not yet gotten any kind of final determination from the post commission about whether they are going to accept the recommendation to decertify or whether they are going to reject it. And I'm not really sure if there is any significance as far as like what the outcome is going to be to the decision to release this redacted video in the interim, so that we get the transparency, we get to see. It clearly took place over quite some period of time. If the closings were submitted at the end of August, then frankly, that's like, to me, that's a pretty quick turnaround for a decision. Again, it's kind of hard to say exactly how complex it is because I'm not sure exactly what the IA findings were, what the arguments are, for exactly why, they think it's unfounded. We know that they're denying he's Marty Riggs, and that I guess the conclusion that he's Marty Riggs isn't justified from the evidence. Sounded right at the end there like there might be some kind of issue with the authenticity of the Marty Riggs messages as they were proffered. But the hearing officer also sounded kind of skeptical about, the fact that these discrepancies hadn't been identified back when you could have asked Brian Holmes about them when he was on the stand. So really not clear. This hearing officer definitely is leading the defense lawyer by the nose, and frankly, the post division attorney as well. Follows up with his own questions. He did a much better cross examination of the first witness. His name I'm now spaced on, Hailey Holmes, or whatever it was. He did a much better cross examination than the post lawyer did. Well, I mean, what really stood out from all this was just the instant, the hostility, the combativeness, the counselor, is a very, very combative kind of way of engagement. Always has an explanation for everything, of course. People in denial always have explanations for everything, no matter how ridiculous they sound. And even when those explanations are like kind of all over the place and conflicting with each other. But it's going to be up to the hearing officer to decide, does he have any credibility? I don't think he does, but that's just my read. And I'm not authoritative on this in any way. And I'm also not looking at all the stuff that the hearing officer gets to look at to be able to make that decision. But to me, no, there's so many problems with the story. There's so many problems with the presentation, just like how you are presenting yourself to this proceeding. And the real, just the fundamental underlying problem is that their strategy depends on acknowledging, taking responsibility for the 2015 discipline, because apparently he agreed to it. He didn't appeal it or anything like that. Didn't fight it through. Went ahead and accepted it, probably to keep his job. But he just cannot act in a way that's consistent with him taking accountability. He just can't. Even with the one thing he's supposed to be responsible for, he's just got to be pointing the finger at other people and blaming everybody else and how helpless he is and what a victim he is, and just not seeing the real discrepancy between this very remorseful wrongdoer that your lawyer is trying so hard to depict, and you just can't play the part. Just absolutely cannot play this part. Got absolutely dog walked on the apps. I mean, major credibility blow right there. No, I never even had the Facebook Messenger app. Why? Because here's my cherry-picked app list that I updated. I updated every time I downloaded a new app, except for the fact that you didn't. Because we looked at your phone right now, called the bluff, called your bluff. You sat up there, look at my phone. And finally the post guy's like, yeah, okay, let's do that. And lo and behold, 8 apps between the time he submitted his compilation, his screenshots, and the time he submitted his materials to post. He didn't update a damn thing. But he will continue to just spin and weave and explain and be completely wrong and have no shame about it whatsoever. No acknowledgement. So even in trying to paint himself as remorseful, he could never acknowledge doing anything wrong. Just constantly minimizing abuse of power. Well, I just looked at the paper. I just asked to look at the paper. And then contacted the person who's under investigation, whose name you're not supposed to know, that you only got access to because of your privileged position in law enforcement, and interfered with the investigation. Well, I wasn't in the right state of mind. I'm not sure this guy's ever been in a good state of mind. I'm not sure it was going to get worse after, in fact, I'm not sure that it did. I'm honestly not sure that this cross did more damage to him than his own direct did, with the way he describes the interactions with the kids and, how he handled that whole situation. Doesn't want anything to do with them. Didn't want anything to do with Sandra. Really didn't want her coming around at all, but then was so sad. And heartbroken, even though she lied about everything. Somebody's nervous about paternity testing, I bet. Somebody's pretty glad that civil case has stayed because he's not a criminal defendant. So probably isn't going to be able to be compelled to do anything in the criminal case, but in the civil case, maybe. Especially if this gets sustained. There've been formal findings. Yeah, this guy was Marty Riggs and he lied about it. Marty Riggs was having a inappropriate relationship with Sandra BIRCHMORE right before she was found. She was found dead. Did his conduct contribute to that? If he was the father of her unborn child, would that be relevant? Yeah, I rather think it would. Well, I guess all we do now is sit back and wait until we get some kind of decision from the post commission. These records are supposed to be public. There's a whole database now. You can go to the post commission's website, and you can search all the disciplinary records and stuff like that. This is, I believe, a product of some change in the law that made these types of proceedings no longer private. So they are open, they are transparent, and so we should be able to see what the decision is and what the basis for it is once it's ultimately handed down. So I'm going to be very curious to see what they come up with. This is clearly not a spotless process by any stretch of the imagination. We've dealt with the lost records. We've got apparently now a discrepancy on something that could be pretty critical. You know, the Marty Riggs texts, if they're being submitted with different dates, different times, that's potentially a big problem, because how do you then know what to rely on and what they are? Maybe it's explainable. I don't know. Of course, hard to say, and we can't see anything. I do wonder if the evidence itself too is going to become publicly available. Again, I don't know why it shouldn't. The basis for the adjudication is a pretty important part of the public transparency, so that we're able to look at the outcome, weigh it against what it was based on, and decide if we agree with that or not. Does this look fair? Or does this look like, maybe somebody did somebody a favor? Does this look like, somebody got it completely wrong? Maybe somebody's a little biased about law enforcement. So I'm going to be keeping my eyes open and see what we're able to see as this thing winds through to its conclusion. You know, one thing I wanted to address too, because I have had some questions about it, is he fighting this because of his bar license? Is this going to get him, in trouble with the bar if he's decertified? And I got to tell you guys, I don't think it's going to. I really don't think it's going to. The reason why, it largely has to do with timing, because he's already admitted to the bar. And so now that he's admitted to the bar, the grounds for discipline are based on violations of the rules of professional conduct. That's what justifies being disciplined as an attorney. But the problem is that the rules of professional conduct apply to your actions as a lawyer, or at least while you're a lawyer. And so I'm not necessarily convinced that findings relating to stuff that preceded that while he was a police officer are going to necessarily justify any type of attorney discipline. Now, the reason I say timing is because, he got admitted to the bar while he's doing his bad stuff, but before it, becomes known. And so typically when you're getting admitted to the bar, you have to go through they call it character and fitness evaluation, run your credit report, look at your criminal background. It's not like the full-on FBI where they go and, talk to your neighbors from when you were 8 years old or wherever. Like, it's not that extensive, but, it's fairly comprehensive. You got to disclose every job you've ever had, every place you've ever gone to school. If anybody has made any type of, complaint against you, implicates your honesty or anything at all like that. It's fairly thorough. And so had this IA finding been in effect when he was trying to pass the character and fitness, well, then it probably would have been a big factor, but it wasn't. And so now that he's a lawyer, can he be punished under the RPCs for conduct he engaged in while he wasn't? While he was a cop? I don't think so. I really don't. So possibly, anything, if there's findings relating to anything he did after January the 12th of 2021, then maybe. If there's findings related, for example, to, dishonesty or misrepresentation in the course of the IA investigation after he's already a lawyer, now I think we might be on a little bit stronger footing. So it's all kind of a big it depends, but like the decertification itself, no, for that reason, I don't think so. It would require some fairly specific findings about conduct he was engaged in after the time that he became a lawyer. So we will have to wait and see what the decision is and see what it says in order to get a full perspective on that. And so with that, guys, well, this was kind of long and painful. Didn't necessarily love every second of it. This guy, He makes you want to punch the wall, doesn't he? Very aggravating. Very aggravating. Really didn't find him credible. Really found so much of this just tone deaf. So tone deaf. How do you use your entire family as human shields? You know, your 8-year-old daughter gets thrown under the bus. Your son has to be a shield for this hacking stuff. So does your wife. Your dying grandma is part of your defense. Like this is just this is just some gross stuff from a real character standpoint. And honestly, I'm really not surprised at all that he is you know, now working as a solo practitioner. Not that there is anything wrong with that. Far from it. But it just does seem like a situation where I sure would not want to work with this guy. And I can't imagine that I'm the only one that would have an impression like that. He just not really a very good team player, huh? Because it's all about him. It's all about his ego. It's all about you know, he literally says he had conflicts with McNamara because she was the deputy chief and he had been demoted down 3 ranks back to patrol officer, but he had opinions. He disagreed with her about stuff. Bitch, it ain't your place. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about your low rank opinion anymore. And he just doesn't get that, was never able to accept that. And it seems to be kind of endemic of the general lack of respect that he has for others, all the way down to the vulnerable children that participated in his program. So at the end of the day, I just kind of hope that the hearing officer sees it that way. I hope that the post commission sees it that way. He wanted this to clear his name. I want it because I don't even want the possibility of him being a police officer back on the table. I want this to be fully rebuked. I want there to be a message sent that this is completely unacceptable. This is not what anybody needs in their force, and not the kind of behavior that should be protected behind the thin blue line. So I will probably do my final video on this whenever we get the decision on it, so that we can go over it, talk about it, maybe compare it to my notes of what we saw and heard. But as of now we wait. It's kind of like the verdict watch. Sometimes the most aggravating part of the case, the limbo stage of we've heard what we've heard, but we don't know what the outcome is going to be. So hopefully it won't be too long, but not sure we have any real guarantee one way or the other. So when you see me again on this case, we'll be talking about the decision. And so until then, guys, guard your integrity. Life just goes so much better when you don't have to try to remember your lies or anticipate the traps. Get mad about the people who are calling you out on your bullshit. It just makes a much better life that way, guys. Take care, and I'll see you next time.